some hiccups along the way, but momentum tends to feed on itself.
All right, Keith, we're going to continue talking about this, and I'm going to find out what you think of a possible government shutdown. Keith Lerner stays with us. Quick check on futures as we head to the opening bell. We're looking at the S&P futures down only about 1/10 of 1%. This is Bloomberg.
Take us inside and tell us what you can without violating confidences, what it's like to be at a board meeting of Berkshire Hathaway. You've got, for a long time, you had Charlie Munger, you have Warren Buffett still there as the chair, and you've got other people now on the board. Do people ever say, Warren, you're wrong on this, or Charlie, you don't really know what you're talking about? Does that ever happen?
The difference on the inside versus the outside is really very limited. In other words, this is a company that's valued transparency, candor. I met Warren and Charlie, their ability to teach. And so I would say there were no surprises being on the inside versus the outside because of that culture. I would say the one difference of nuance is it's just amazing how much Warren and before Warren and Charlie together think about the durability of the business, how much they think about risk, how much they are determined that they are trying to build something to last, and the sense of responsibility they feel to their shareholders, the people that have their life savings in it. And that was one of the big lessons from Charlie in terms of our business, was to really reinforce this culture of stewardship.
What is going to be the consequence for U.S. markets? We are basically deep in the European earnings season. Take a look at how we're doing when it comes to Asian markets.
Join me each week on Wall Street Week for stories of capitalism from business, markets, economics, tech, and climate. More than what you need to know, it's what you need to think about.
Hello, this is DrPaulCottrell. We are live streaming on Rumble, YouTube, my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Help support the work that I do by making sure you donate. You can donate on my website, the-studio-reykjavik.com. You can also be a paid member to my Substack channel and to my Patreon channel. All the links are in the description of this video. Please make sure you subscribe to all my channels. I have 4 channels on YouTube, Brighteon, Bitchute, and Rumble. Again, please help support the work that I do. These are all free to give you my perspective on the markets, the news, even scientific endeavors. Trump is talking right now, so we're going to jump right in, but please help support the work by sharing the links, asking your social media to follow me. You can also follow me on X on GETTR. All these videos I do are for free. Please help support the work by getting the great products I offer.
There's been no fight. There's been no fight. Like what I call the Gulf of America, the Gulf of America. Because to me, it was always the Gulf of America. I could never understand. We have 92%
So different.
frontage. And for years, actually 350 years, they were there before us. It was called the Gulf of Mexico. I just had this idea. I'm looking at a map. I'm saying, we have most of the frontage. Why is it Gulf of Mexico? Why isn't it the Gulf of America? And I made the change, and went smoothly. I mean, we had a couple of fake news outlets that refused to make the change. And then one of them, AP, took us to court and we won. And the judge, who was a somewhat liberal judge, said, the name is the Gulf of America, because AP refused to call it the Gulf of America. They wrote, they're not a good outfit, by the way. They call it the Gulf of Mexico. I said, no, the Gulf of America is the name. And the judge actually said that, in fact, you can't even go into the room because what you're doing is not appropriate. The name is the Gulf of America. Google Maps changed the name. Everybody did, but AP wouldn't. And then we won in court. How about that? Isn't that so cool? As Secretary Heck says, beautifully described, the name change and reflects far more than the shift in branding. It's really a historic reassertion of our purpose and our identity and our pride. That's when we go with the word war. And you know, we want war because we want to have no wars, but you have to be there. And you know, sometimes you have to do it. I have settled so many wars since we're here almost 9 months, and I've settled 7. And yesterday we might have settled the biggest of them all. Although I don't know, Pakistan, India was very big. Both nuclear powers, I settled that. But yesterday's could be the settlement in the Middle East that hasn't happened for 3,000 years. I said, how long have you been fighting? 3,000 years. So that's a long time. But we got it, I think, settled. We'll see. Hamas has to agree. And if they don't, it's going to be very tough on a big part of the earth. But if that works out, it would be 8+. I think give myself 2 or 3 for that one. And then we just have the 1 to 7. We have to send it up to President Zelensky to get them together and get it done. But the only way we can do that is through strength. I mean, if we were weak, they wouldn't even take my phone call. But we have extreme strength. We had the horror show in Afghanistan, which is really the reason I think that Putin went in. He saw that horror show by Biden and his team, incompetent people. And that showed, I think it gave him a path in. I wasn't there any longer. I watched that and it was so horrible. I think it was the most embarrassing day in the history of our country. And now we're back. That's it. We're not going to have any of that crap happen, I can tell you. That was terrible, so terrible. Together we're reawakening the warrior spirit, and this is a spirit that won and built this nation from the cavalry that tamed the Great Plains to the ferocious and yielding power of Patton Bradley, the great General Douglas MacArthur. These are all great men. In this effort, we're a team, and so my message to you is very simple. I am with you, I support you, and as president, I have your backs 100%. You'll never see me even waver a little bit. That's the way it is. And that includes our great police officers and firemen and all of these people that are doing so well. Together over the next few years, we're going to make our military stronger, tougher, faster, fiercer, and more powerful than it has ever been before. I rebuilt our nuclear, as you probably know, but we'll upgrade that also and just hope we never have to use it. We have to hope we never have to use it, because the power of that is so incredible. I see things I don't think they show it to you. I really want them to show it to you. But when you see the result of what's left, you never want to use that. Never, never, ever. We were a little bit threatened by Russia recently, and I sent a submarine, nuclear submarine, the most lethal weapon ever made. Number one, you can't detect it. There's no way. We're 25 years ahead of Russia and China in submarines. Russia's actually second in submarines. China's third, but they're coming up. They're coming up. They're way lower in nuclear too, but in 5 years they'll be equal. They're coming up. And you don't have to be that good with nuclear. You could have 1/20th what you have now and still do the damage that would be, that'd be so horrendous. But I announced that, based on his mention of nuclear, and it was really a stupid person that works for him mentioned the word nuclear, I moved a submarine or two, I won't say about the two, over to the coast of Russia, just to be careful, because we can't let people throw around that word. I call it the N word. There are two N words, and you can't use either of them. That is something we don't ever even have to think about. But when somebody mentions it, that submarine started immediately thereafter. And it's just working, but I'm sure we're not going to have to use it. But it's an amazing, it's undetectable. Totally, ours is, theirs isn't. Theirs are totally detectable. We can detect them easily. We go right to the spot. But we have genius apparatus that doesn't allow detection. It doesn't allow detection at all by anybody above water or below water. It's incredible. We're way ahead of everybody and other things. As a result of the exciting renewal of the spirit of our armed forces, and that's what it is. It's really reaching its spirit, unprecedented heights. Over the past 8 months, new enlistments, I'm so proud of this, have surged to record highs, the highest we've ever had. And we used to have recruiting shortages. If you remember, about a year and a half ago, I was at the beginning stage of a campaign, and things came out that you couldn't get people to join the armed forces. And by the way, the police also, fire department, I always put the fire department in because they're great. They're great. And I got 95% of their vote too, that helps. When you get 95% of their vote, you always have to mention them. But they're great. And they're brave in our inner cities, which we're going to be talking about, because it's a big part of war. It's a big part of war. But the firemen go up in ladders and you have people shooting at them while they're up in ladders. I don't even know if anybody heard that. And I said, don't talk about it much, but I think you have to. Our firemen are incredible. They're up at one of these ladders that goes way up to the sky, rescuing people, and you have animals shooting at them, shooting bullets at firemen that are way up in death territory. You fall off that ladder, it's over. It's over. They don't even have to inspect you when you hit the ground. And you have people shooting bullets at them in some of these inner cities. They're not going to let that happen. So I always mention the firemen because that's actually a big problem we have. They're unbelievable. Like you, they're unbelievable people. For the first time on record in 2025, the Navy, Air Force, and Space Force all met or surpassed their recruiting goals 3 months early. That never happened before. And the Army did even better. Congratulations, Army. They met everything, and these were the highest standards because we're making it larger. So these were much higher standards than you had 4 years ago, 3 years ago, during the Sleepy Joe Biden era. And the Army did it 4 months early. And you remember, a year and a half ago, they said the big stories that were way behind with the Army, Air Force, the Navy, the Marines were way behind, Coast Guard, and even Space Force. I love Space Force because that was my creation. You know, when you create something, the people we put in there were good. And I got that right. We put in great people initially, and we really dominated. We really dominated that sphere now. We're way behind China and Russia, and now we dominate. Space Force turned out to be a very important thing. I said from the beginning, you know, when Biden came into office, he wanted to determine that. He said, and this thing called Space Force, so we could get rid of that.
All right, I'm gonna pivot to another video. I'll pay attention to this a little bit, but please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get these structural nail silver soaps. Super important to take, especially for the fall and the winter. These are very high quality soaps made from structural nail silver. Get it in peppermint, in lavender. You can also get it in lemongrass and charcoal tea tree. All right, but get a few of these structural nail silver soaps for your home. You're helping support the work that I do, but you're also preparing for the fall and the winter season. Super important. If you've been paying attention to the wastewater in the United States, you will know that there are many states that are problematic, and this year will be something that you have to prepare for. So please go to my store and pay attention to the great products that I offer. Another great product that I offer that helps to detoxify your body, bring down inflammation, and soak up free radicals through superoxide dismutase is heirloom barley. If you are regularly detoxifying your body and bringing down inflammation, you're helping your immune system and your endocrine system, your vascular system, and even your brain function. Super important. And over time, you're going to slow down the aging process. So please go to my store and take the heirloom barley every day. This is a high-density protein. It's a powder. You mix it with soft foods. I mix it with hummus, but you can mix it with yogurt or applesauce. You can mix it with filtered water, milk, or even a smoothie. But take it every day to detoxify your body and bring down that inflammation. Super important for your overall health. But you're going to be boosting up your immune system. And over time, you're actually slowing down the aging process. So please go to my store and get the very high quality heirloom barley that I have. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. Let's listen in on to Times Radio.
Your regular scale will never tell you. For weeks, my scale showed I wasn't losing weight despite diet and exercise. I was about to give up and
President Trump, I mean, he's
the best way to lose weight, just to interrupt, the best way to lose weight is to take my Boomer Boost, take it for your breakfast or for your lunch, have somewhat of a calorie restriction diet, but the Boomer Boost is going to give you all that energy that you need and it'll rev up your metabolism, and do resistance training. Doing resistance training is the best way to build muscle and to lose weight safely and maintain that weight loss. If you're doing a lot of cardio, chances are you may lose a little weight and then you'll gain more weight and you'll go on a yo-yo diet. The best way to lose weight is weight training.
Speech, but he does have a knack for sniffing out losers, and I think potentially he sniffed out Putin as a loser, and he wants to be on the side of the winners, and potentially that was part of the rationale for his social media post last week. Now, it could also be, part of the rationale for walking away and saying Europe over to you as well, and I think some commentators have made that case, and there's some evidence for that. But I do think Trump has looked at Putin, has looked at someone who doesn't listen to him, has looked at him as someone who, whenever Trump calls for peace negotiations, steps up and conducts even larger scale aerial attacks. I think Trump is starting to see Putin as a loser. Let's hope that Trump is able to follow through with more help for Ukraine.
Now, we continuously talk about the importance of US support to enable Ukraine to at least not lose the conflict and hopefully win the conflict. But over the years, as US support has waxed and waned, we've seen Europe build up its defense capacity and defense industrial base. We've seen Ukraine come up with huge capabilities. Do you think the reliance on US support is as essential as we thought it was, 2.5, 3 years ago?
Well, I think US support is still very important. It may not be comprised of the large-scale provision of military assistance, but they are still a very large arms factory from which many European countries will buy arms, not just to provide to the Europeans, but also to enhance their own militaries in the wake of Russia's aggression in the last 3 years. And even if the Americans aren't providing hardware, which I expect they'll continue to do, but they provide much of the intelligence. It's very, very important for Ukrainian long-range strike. They provide a coordinating mechanism for the provision of aid. They have provided financial assistance. They're providing ongoing training assistance. So America's role in this war is important. And once again, to be fair to the Trump administration, whilst they have not asked for further packages from Congress to aid Ukraine, there's a whole lot of other assistance that they've continued with.
Yeah, well, Donald Trump doesn't seem to go to Congress to ask permission to do stuff. He signs executive orders and it gets done. But the use of long-range U.S. long-range missiles, if that happens, after what General Kellogg has said, will be significant. What we tend to see are the Russians then coming out with more nuclear threats, and they tend to liberally spread around this nuclear word. Do you think that's what we'll see in reaction once they find out that the first long-range US weapons have been used? And should we take it seriously? It seems to worry a lot of European nations.
Well, I think that's very likely from Putin, even though we need to stress that the use of tomahawks in this war is not an escalation. Russians have been using long-range missiles with the same range as the tomahawk, with the same size warheads since day one of this war. The provision of tomahawks would just level the playing field when it comes to long-range strike. It would not be an escalation. That said, Putin would love to portray this as an American escalation, as a NATO escalation. He will certainly rattle the nuclear saber. It hasn't, it's kind of worked for him in the early days of the war, but I think NATO and the Americans are now wise to that trick. I don't think it will be as effective this time as it might have been in the first year or two of the war.
Yeah, it's the old game of crying wolf too much, and he's not going to get away with it. But tomahawks. What are tomahawks going to bring that the Ukrainian Flamingo missile isn't?
Do it all with steel battery.
Flamingo missile isn't bringing, because it seems to have a smaller warhead. It hasn't got the 3,000 kilometer range, and therefore, why are they so significant?
Well, I think there's a few things that differentiate it from just about everything else in the Ukrainian arsenal, including the Flamingo missile. It has a range out to about 2,500 kilometres, which is a pretty extraordinary range. It is able to move much more quickly than the vast majority, even all Ukrainian drones and missile hybrids. It carries a half-ton warhead and is extraordinarily accurate, more accurate than just about any other missile on Earth. So it brings that on top of everything else. It would complement the Flamingo missiles, not replace them, because it is more likely to penetrate Russian air defences than any other missile that the Ukrainians might have. I mean, the Ukrainians would not ask for it if it didn't offer something additional to their overall long-range strike arsenal. It would, and hopefully they will get them in the short term.
Yes, it's interesting. I remember talking about targeting tomahawks in a past life, and working out which window we wanted to fly it through in a building, and that was quite a few years ago. The accuracy's got even better since then. But it's the stealth technology that seems to be the clear bit. But Ukraine seems to be at the moment carrying out systematic attacks against military and air defense targets through Crimea, and almost creating a clear path of air defense down towards the Kerch Bridge. We've seen the logistic routes by land into Crimea, the railway routes attacked in recent days and weeks, and Russia's now starting to move fuel into Crimea across the Kerch Bridge. Do you think it's only a matter of time before we see that being attacked again?
Well, possibly. I think Ukraine has two strike campaigns going at the moment. One is economic warfare, which is targeting Russian oil infrastructure with an aim of degrading their export revenue and their ability to fund the war. And the other campaign is targeting military, operational and strategic targets, whether it's defence industry, munitions plants, or those air defence radars that we've seen them targeting, the air defence systems, the helicopters in Crimea. That isn't a significant shift. The focus on Crimea is somewhat of a shift. It's a geographical shift. But we should be cautious here. Is it to presage some kind of larger operation against Crimea and the Kerch Bridge, or is it to distract us from something else the Ukrainians might do? I mean, they have proven themselves to be very good at strategic and operational deception in this war so far. So we should be cautious about seeing this as the first phase of something against Crimea. It might presage something entirely different.
So do you think, we've got the war's been fought on the front line according to all commentators, but that's the tactical battle. And what Ukraine is doing in attacking Russia's ability to continue to support the tactical battle by hitting the logistics, hitting the fuel, hitting the economy, is an operational level conflict. Do you think that the commentators on the Ukraine conflict have generally got it wrong beforehand? Because they seem to be measuring who's winning and losing by how the front line at that tactical level in the east is moving.
Well, possession of territory is clearly one of the measures you can use to see how both Russia and Ukraine are doing in this war. I mean, Russia is clearly taking ground, but it's very small parcels for very large costs. And if you have a look at their advance in Kharkiv, they're nowhere close to taking back all the ground they lost when the Ukrainians conducted their 2022 Kharkiv offensive. But we need to look at other measures to see how the war is progressing. I think the Ukrainians' global information campaign to continue support, keep them on the front page, and to deny Russian misinformation about the war is important. I think the Ukrainian diplomatic offensive to win over Donald Trump and his administration has been very important in the last 8 or 9 months. It's certainly got better since the 28th of February in the Oval Office. And the long-range strike campaign is clearly a part of how we measure progress in this war. And I think if you take all those things together, they demonstrate that Russia is not doing well. Russia can't win the war from this point, given what they're investing in it, and Ukraine is well postured to hurt Russia even more in the coming months.
You've been watching Frontline with me, Philip Ingram. If you'd like access to exclusive content, please subscribe to Times Radio membership and watch us on YouTube. But you can now get us as a podcast.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get these 2 supplements for the fall and winter to boost up your immune system and to help with your brain function. Super important. Magnesium and zinc. You will need this for the fall and the winter. Take it every day, boost up that immune system. If you're not feeling well, take a double dose. Take 1 in the morning, take 1 in the evening. Super important. Magnesium will also help with your brain function, so you should be taking this every day. Now, I keep on telling people, you will find that individuals in your social circle, around 30% of them, within the next 5 years, if they're 40 years of age or older, will get early onset of dementia. So you better start protecting your neurons. Really important. But take this every day to boost up that immune system, and you will need this during the fall and the winter. So be prepared. Be prepared. Another great stack that is going to be needed for the fall and the winter is D3 and K2. This will reduce the severity. Now let me tell you how it works. D3 will help with the gene expression of your cells so they'll perform better. D3 also helps to get rid of cells to go into apoptosis if they're infected. K2 will also help to absorb calcium like D3 does, but it also helps to reduce severity of what's coming in the fall and the winter. K2 stacked with D3 will also help with bone density if you do resistance training, and it will help with your cardiovascular health by reducing calcium depositing around plaque. Also take it with nattokinase. Nattokinase is fibrinolytic. You're going to need this because there are going to be more blood clots that are going to be formed during the fall and the winter. So you're going to need something that's fibrinolytic. Nattokinase will break up clots. Nattokinase also helps with your lipid profile. It helps to bring down LDL levels and increase your HDL levels. When you have less LDL, you have less oxidized LDL. That means less plaque formation. So taking nattokinase every day is very helpful for your cardiovascular health. But if you do the stack, you get multiple benefits. You're reducing the severity in the fall and the winter. You're helping with your bone density with the D3 and the K2. When you stack all 3 together, you're also helping with your cardiovascular health. Super important. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Be prepared for the fall and the winter. You will need to be prepared for this fall and winter. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. And you're going to need that free gift for the fall and the winter. Let's listen into Bloomberg here.
How quickly he gets out of Quantico, we'll bring it to you live, but Pfizer is going to sell drugs through Medicaid at lower prices, according to the Washington Post, and we'll be waiting for that announcement. Coming up in the next hour, Goldman Sachs' David Kostin expects IPO and deal activity only to get stronger in the new year. This is Bloomberg.
Let's shift over to another video here. Just listening into the Ford CEO.
It's a California showdown. 49ers, Rams, Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, only on Prime.
Most people don't know this, but personal injury attorneys aren't allowed to say they're better than their competitors. These rules protect you from being misled. Lawyers can...
Let me ask you about tariffs and where you think things stand, what you expect to happen to the tariffs from a legal perspective, and how you're confronting them yourself at this point.
Well, we had a huge announcement. The Trump administration announced that they're looking at the 232 tariffs for heavy-duty trucks. This is a really big deal for our country and for Ford. Companies like PACCAR and Ford, we make all of our heavy-duty trucks in America. We have a lot of competition from overseas, and a 25% tariff will be a really big deal. On the parts tariff side, for the vehicles we do build in the United States, there are a lot of parts that we don't make in the U.S. Those are getting tariffed 25, 70%. And we need to make those more affordable. It's a $2 billion headwind for Ford. It really restricts our future investment. We're working with the administration. They've been incredibly open.
They should have read the writing on the wall. Americans should be bringing back, these companies should be bringing back manufacturing and build the stuff here and stop playing labor arbitrage, period. What they thought was they thought that another president will get in, a different president will be pro-globalization, everything will be copacetic, and we don't have to worry about it, and we'll just keep on hemorrhaging jobs out of the United States. Wrong. Why do you think that a lot of individuals that are young can't get a job? Well, there's a multitude of reasons. One reason is they're not getting the right degrees. Two, there's too many people actually graduating from college compared to what is needed in the job market. Three, you have companies that are playing labor arbitrage in two ways. A, they're getting H-1B visa holders, and they're shipping the jobs overseas to a different country. So we need to stop this. We need to stop it. And the only way to stop it is to actually slap the tariffs, hurt the shareholders, and then the CEOs will start to realize, you know what, Trump is actually a man of his word, and he's going to get the job done in terms of bringing back manufacturing. Now, there's different types of manufacturing. There's final assembly. Is there going to be a lot of a final assembly work coming back to the United States? No, a lot of it's going to be automated. But the thing is, to make those automation lines, you need manufacturing engineers. To make the parts for the car, you need engineers. You need a lot of steel dies. You need lots of injection dies. So lots of stampings. All this stuff needs to be made. Most of it can't be automated. That's where the magic is. It's at the tier 1 and tier 2 level. And then the economic clustering that happens with small businesses. So if someone says, just bring back manufacturing to the United States is going to create more jobs, they don't know what they're talking about. It's about the economic clustering. It's about tool and die. If you look at an item, you got to think about, how is that made? How is that made? Now, it's assembled, but there's also parts that are formed, cut and made and stamped and all this stuff. And these dies cost a lot of money to make. So to make 20,000 or 100,000 parts out of one die, it's not something that's automated. It's custom built. Oh, and if you're making a lot of stuff in the United States, you'll need a lot of stamp dies. You'll need a lot of injection dies. The tool and die industry will come back. And this is the problem that we saw in Detroit with NAFTA. Once the tool and die industry started to falter, the economy in Detroit started to falter. But you have a bunch of economists that think they know it all. You got a bunch of economists that never really did any real work. They don't understand about economic clustering. They understand it in a very lofty, way, but they don't really fully get it. They don't know the tangibleness of it because they never did it. No. So the economy, the tariffs need to be used to push companies back into making stuff here. It's really simple. It's really, really simple. Make stuff here. There will be economic clustering. So if you talk to someone that thinks that they really understand engineering or understand manufacturing or understand economic clustering, push back. Push back. Don't just say, oh, there's not going to be that many jobs created. Well, there won't be that many jobs created in final assembly. But everything on this line, parts, the robots, everything has to be designed and built and implemented. Those are lots of high-paying jobs. And when you build stuff, when you make stuff, that's where innovation happens. If you outsource that to another country, you're not innovating. You're not an innovating country.
Solutioning around that, and I'm very optimistic we'll find a solution on the parts tariff, but a lot more work to do.
The solution is this. Listen here, dipshit, Jim Farley, the CEO of Ford. Listen, the answer isn't trying to get some sort of, hall pass on tariffs. The answer is bring back the economic cluster. Does it take time to do? Yes. But the thing is, in the long run, the economy will be better in the United States. The debt to GDP ratio will be better. Why? Because their GDP is higher. Amazing how that works. So anyone that wants a hall pass for tariffs is only kicking the can down the road. It's not solving the real problem. And then if you're not manufacturing in the United States, how are we going to have war prowess over the Chinese? We don't have that many shipyards. We used to. Why isn't the United States the biggest, have the most technological and biggest shipyard industry? Why? Why don't we have it? Why do we have to go to a different country? Oh, everyone wants to be a paper pusher? Is that what it is? Everyone wants to be an economist that doesn't get their hands dirty?
To solving some of these tariff issues.
Jim, when you think 10 years out about what the car industry looks like in America, assuming these tariffs are here and they don't go anywhere, I imagine it becomes a completely domesticated market. I don't know if you think that's a good or bad thing. I wonder whether these cars will be able to even be exported. And I also wonder whether Americans are going to spend more money for frankly, cars that are not as competitive as cars that might be available in parts of Asia and Europe.
Well, thank you for asking this question. The car business is definitely regionalizing quickly. But look at Ford. We make almost all of our vehicles in the U.S., and we're the #1 exporter. So people in Canada, around the world, they love their Explorers, they love their Super Duties and Transit vans, Mustangs and Broncos. We can do both, but we need flexibility on importing parts because that is the key part. 20-30% of our parts, we need to be able to import them, in a way.
No. You can say you got 6 months to move the operations to the United States. You got a year, but you got to do it. And if you don't, then we do a clawback and then tax you to the tariffs. We got to force the companies to come back to the United States. We got to stop shipping it to Canada. We got to stop shipping it to Mexico. Stop shipping our jobs and our manufacturing to the Asian countries. It's all bullshit. We got to make sure that we have economic prowess and make sure that we have spectral dominance when it comes to a potential war in the Pacific. Because if we don't, we won't have a country.
Our vehicles more affordable that we do make here. But you're right, 50% of all vehicles sold in the U.S. are imported. Those countries have $5,000, $6,000 advantages on labor, currency, and some countries like China subsidize their companies. You know, and we have to face this. What Ford is doing about it, we're not complaining. We're going to take care of this ourselves. We just launched the Universal Electric Vehicle Platform in Louisville. We think it's the same cost as a BYD made in Mexico. And we're trying to out-innovate our competitors like BYD.
Electric vehicles aren't going to work. They're not robust. And think about it. Think about how robust is your phone and your iPad when it comes to lithium batteries. Now, your car is out in the elements. Now, you take a vehicle that is EV, either hybrid or even full EV. How robust is it really? How durable is it after 6 years? I guarantee you a combustion engine is way more durable. Why would you want to do that? Oh, it's not as durable. It's not as robust. So you have to buy another one. So why are you buying into this idea that you have to constantly upgrade because of the lack of durability, yet the technology with a combustion engine is better in terms of durability? Oh, we got to save the planet. Okay, so we try to reduce our carbon footprint, and then a volcano goes off, and we're now behind 20 years because of all of the emissions that was belched out of the volcano. So we spent all this money to try to reduce our carbon footprint, and the gods of war, in terms of plate tectonics, decides to reverse our gains. Good going, climatologists. Good going. Thanks for having us spend tens of trillions of dollars worldwide to try to reduce our carbon footprint with a technology that's not robust.
I don't think we can stand still. We can't rely on, a North America or U.S. only market. Companies like Ford have to out-innovate our Chinese competitors. We're already facing them in Australia, New Zealand, in Thailand. There's subsidized vehicles. It's happening already. Ford's a global company, and we have to match that challenge. We are not going to be a vibrant company or country if we just build a huge wall around the United States.
So Jim, one of your competitors, General Motors, I guess, quietly abandoned that 2035 promise to make all EVs. I was thinking about that, and it's totally 2026 soon. I can't even, it boggles the mind to think that anyone ever thought we could get there, but I don't know.
It's not a matter of can we get there. First of all, the infrastructure is not there. How are you gonna charge your battery? And then you're competing with these AI servers on top of it. So your energy costs are going to go to the roof, literally. We don't have the infrastructure. It takes too long to charge your battery. The batteries aren't robust. Look at a Tesla 6 years later. Now look at Jeep. That's 25 years later. Which one is more durable?
Finally decided they're going to invest in some ICE, internal combustion engine technology, and acknowledge it's going to take decades. will Ford strive, even if it's 2050, to be all EV? Is that the future?
The answer is no.
What kind of decisions do you have to make now about what
Not just
Ford is?
that. Not just that. Lithium battery technology needs lithium. And lithium needs to be mined. And the mining operations are not clean. If you think that EV is a great idea, why don't you research in how lithium is actually mined? And then you tell me which one is better for the environment. Pumping oil out of the ground or mining for lithium. And I guarantee you that pumping oil out of the ground is way better for the environment.
Well, we have to make those decisions now. You're absolutely right. We're a 5 to 10 year outlook company. Our products take that long to develop. Look, Ford has never made a statement about being all electric. We are number 3 in hybrids. 30% of all F-150s, the best-selling vehicle in the United States, are hybrid now.
You know, I think I don't follow Ford CEOs that closely. I don't think they've ever had a female CEO. Now, when they went to all EV, it was a female CEO for GM that said that. Now here, another DEI buying into this whole ESG, and we gotta hug the world, and we gotta save the planet. The planet doesn't need saving. It's been hit by asteroids. It's gone through tumultuous times throughout its history. Who needs saving is the human race. It's not the planet. The planet will be just fine.
We invested in hybrid. We never stopped investing. We never saw our country being all electric or all combustion. That makes no sense. Customers in the U.S. are really smart. We want to offer them a range of vehicles. We will offer an affordable EV for city use. We've been number 2 to Tesla for 3 years on the EV side, and we learned a lot from the EV cycle. These 70
for the city use. All right, now what's the reason why EVs don't work in rural? Well, there's not an infrastructure. There's, the distance is too great. The EVs don't travel that much. How are you going to charge your vehicle after traveling 200 miles or whatever? You could have a barn, right, hooked up to the grid, and you could charge your EV there, but that's about it. So the range is really bad. Okay, so that's rural. Suburb, you're about 50 miles away from city. You could charge it at your home. So suburb makes more sense. But city, when someone says city, I think of New York. I think of Chicago. I think of LA. How are you going to charge your EV in that kind of environment? Because most parking structures don't have charging stations. So how are you going to charge your car? Can't plug it into your condo or your apartment. How are you going to do it? So it doesn't make sense for city. This is the reason why most people don't have EVs in New York. Because where do you charge it? Where do you park it? Now, New York is so expensive, having a car doesn't even make any sense because you have good mass transit. Assuming you don't get killed on the mass transit, but let's put that aside. But you have mass transit, so you can get anywhere in the city without the need for a car. Now, a lot of cities aren't like that. But having an EV in a city, where do you charge it? So it doesn't. What he just said doesn't make any sense. For suburbs, it makes sense. Rural, no. City, no. Suburb, yes. If you're traveling into the city by a suburb, yes.
$1,000 EVs with $30,000 batteries, that is not the future. We think E-Revs, hybrids make a lot more sense. And if you're towing a Super Duty, for your job, you're not going to want an electric vehicle, maybe not even a hybrid. So we need to offer people a range And what we like about the government now, their position is, look, why don't we sell a more reasonable electrification footprint like hybrids at a natural demand? I think that makes sense for Ford.
Hybrids make sense. Hybrids do make sense.
New to Medicare, moving or losing coverage? Understanding your Medicare plan option?
Please go to my hybrids make sense, but they're not as robust as just a 100% combustion engine. I know the subject really well because I design cars. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get this product for the fall and the winter. You're going to need it. But you get added benefits if you use it all year round. But you're going to need this for the fall and the winter. Get the structural nano silver toothpaste. It will whiten your teeth, freshen your breath, help reduce inflammation at the gum line, and help your gum line. By taking this, you're going to neutralize what's coming in the fall and the winter. Did you listen to me? Did you pay attention to what I just said? If you listen really carefully, you're going to need this for the fall and the winter. Why? Well, it doesn't have any fluoride, so it doesn't make you stupid. And two, it's made with structural nanosilver, and it's going to neutralize what's coming in the fall and the winter. Another thing that you really need for the fall and the winter to boost up that immune system is Max 35 and cleanse. 30 parts per million for cleanse. The Max 35 is 35 parts per million. Amazing why it's called Max 35. Take a teaspoon a day. Swish in your mouth, gargle, 20 seconds, then swallow it. What does it do? It keeps your oral hygiene and your oral pharynx up to snuff. All right? It helps with the mucosal barrier. It helps the health of your epithelial lining. And guess what? Your epithelial tissue will need to be super healthy, and you need to boost up that immune system. Because what's coming in the fall and the winter? It targets the epithelial lining. Amazing how that works. Better pay attention. Fall and the winter, it's going to be a problem for you. It won't be a problem for me, but it'll be a problem for you if you're not prepared. All righty. Let's listen into another breaking news. All right, I want to listen to CNN here. This was just posted 57 minutes ago.
All right, a live look at Capitol Hill, where a lot and not a lot is happening right now. Time is quickly running out for lawmakers to come to a compromise and do their jobs to avoid a government shutdown, keep the government funded. This morning, there is still no signs of a deal on the horizon. CNN's Harry Enton is running the numbers on this in a specific way, how one party you see in the numbers is facing more pressure than the others, and that's the Democrats. Why?
Why is it that the Democrats, in my mind, are facing more pressure, those Democratic leaders? And that is because their base thinks that their party leaders are weak. Look at this. Democrats on who has strong leaders. Look at this. 54% say neither party, 54% of Democrats say neither party has strong leaders. Among Republicans, 80% of their base thinks Republicans have strong leaders. Yet among Democrats, just 35% of Democrats say their party has strong leaders. When you add together this 54% with this 11%, we're talking about 2/3 of Democrats who say neither party or Republicans have stronger leaders, as compared to just 35% who say their own parties have strong leaders. As I said at the top, weak is how Democrats view their leaders in Washington.
But facing more pressure too, does this suggest, and we'll continue with this, but the question then is, does this suggest that the pressure is for them to cut a deal or to stand against what they think is what Republicans want? That remains kind of the question in and of this. But getting stuff done. Yeah. Who gets stuff done?
Yeah, exactly. And this is the other thing. It's not just that Democrats think that their party leaders are weak. They also think they don't get anything done. I mean, take a look here. Okay, Democrats and who get things done. Again, it's just we get this 50% of Democrats say neither party gets anything done. Just 41% of Democrats say their own party gets stuff done. When you add in this 9% of Democrats who say the Republican Party is more likely to get things done with neither party, we're talking about 3 in 5 Democrats who say neither party or Republicans are more likely to get things done than the Democratic Party. And again, that is the complete inverse of how Republicans feel, because 77% of Republicans think their own party leaders are likely to get things done, compared to just 41% of Democrats, about half that level, who think their own leaders get things done. Again, Democrats just don't think very highly of their party at this point, and that is why there's so much pressure on those leaders, in my mind, in Washington to actually do something that satisfies their base.
Add all of this up, what does it say about the view of the Democratic Party in general?
Yeah, if you think your party has weak leaders, if you think your party can't get anything done, well, this is, I think, the real pressure facing Democrats at this particular point. Democrats who think their parties need major changes or more, look at this, 57% of Democrats say their party needs major changes or more, compared to just 43% who say minor or no changes. Again, very different than the Republican Party, where 21% of Republicans, only 21% say their party needs major changes or more. Again, a lot of pressure on Democratic leaders to actually do something their base likes for a change.
Well, thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Ken.
Hello, I'm your child and I'm in prison. Why are you scamming me?
Saving for a trip to Vegas.
Just use Kayak.
They search hundreds of sites to find great deals. You don't have to be a bad person.
Okay, Mommy.
Kayak.
Alrighty. Let's see here. What else is going on here? All right, this is Pam Bondi reveals whether more charges are coming on Comey.
There is this, former FBI Director Jim Comey, now the first of the Obama-era officials indicted for charges stemming from the Russiagate hoax and investigation. Comey is facing 2 counts, lying to Congress and obstruction of justice. But former House Intelligence Committee Chairman and current Trump Media CEO Devin Nunes told me on Sunday it is possible more charges could be coming for Comey and more former intelligence officials. Watch.
Comey has long been a liar, a leaker. He's dishonest. He ruined the FBI. He will be lucky if there is not a grand conspiracy charge brought, which is really what should be brought against probably about 24 characters in the United States over the last 7-8 years.
Should there be more charges against Jim Comey?
Very specific, and it's over whether or not he lied on this one part. The larger part is whether or not you can bring a kind of grand conspiracy case. And, people talk about, there's the law, which is, lying to Congress, lying to the FBI, but there's also a term in there called misleading. And what a lot of these guys did is they made up things using intelligence that didn't exist, but acted like they knew something that actually wasn't there. And they lied and misled the American people. The only intelligence that they had is that the Russians were very well aware of Clinton's plan. And they actually not only thought Clinton was going to win, but likely preferred that she would win. So going back to the cover-up of her missing emails, that, by the way, are still missing, they all got involved in this plan. They all got the FBI exercise.
So they knew that Hillary Clinton had come up with this plan, and did they mislead the court that they knew it? South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham also said that the obstruction of justice charge goes way beyond just leaking classified information, and it too could lead to a conspiracy charge. Watch.
I think obstruction was more than leaking classified information. I think the obstruction includes withholding exculpatory information to the FISA court where he had a duty to do it. I think the obstruction includes lying about the grand conspiracy here. Not only, and I think the obstruction includes not investigating leads that could have exonerated Trump. Yeah. They wanted Trump to be guilty. Every time they had information that it may not be him, they ignored it. I think this is much bigger than leaking classified information. I think there's a conspiracy charge that could be made. Again, he's presumed innocent, but this obstruction goes well beyond leaking information, classified information. I think there was an effort to withhold exculpatory information, not to investigate credible leads that Trump may not have done this.
Joining me now in this Fox Business exclusive is the Attorney General of the United States, Pam Bondi. AG, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for spending the time.
Thanks, Maria. You too.
So let me get your take on what you just heard from Devin Nunes and Lindsey Graham on the potential for a conspiracy charge against Jim Comey. Are more charges coming?
Maria, I can't comment on anything pending right now.
What's the point of being on the show?
Department, whether there is or is not an ongoing investigation, he's already been charged. But nothing is off the table, and they're two very wise men, but I can't comment on anything regarding that right now.
Okay, understood. Lindsey Graham sent a letter to Kash Patel asking him if he knows if the FBI did an investigation into Hillary Clinton's emails so that we can get a better understanding if they in fact knew that Hillary Clinton had come up with this plan and they misled people. So that's why I asked you the question.
Yeah, there's so much, Maria, out there. They weaponized this government for 4 years, and the weaponization has ended under Donald Trump. No longer will they weaponize the government. No longer will they attack people and attack people with lawsuits, with crimes. What they've been doing to this country the last 4 years was horrendous. It's ended now. And we're going to look at everything. We're not going to leave a stone unturned. The FBI is doing a great job investigating many things. We just can't talk about the specifics of anything right now.
Well, thank you for that. This audience knows very well everything that took place. We have been on this story for 10 years, literally, so we would like to see accountability. Thank you for that, AG. We'll be watching your work on all of this. Let me move on to crime and federal agents arriving in Memphis, Tennessee this week. President Trump's Memphis...
Hopefully she can say something about that. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the zeolite. Zeolite is going to help to bind to heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals, and they'll allow you to urinate them out within 6 to 8 hours. By detoxifying your body regularly, by taking 3 small drops and drinking filtered water, you're going to get rid of those heavy metals, toxins, and chemicals. You're going to boost up that immune system. You're going to boost up your endocrine system. Super important. But you're helping with your kidneys and your liver and your brain function, your bladder. Lots of different organ systems will improve by detoxing your body regularly. This stacks well with the heirloom barley and the gladiator barley. Why? Because they both detoxify your body. And this stacks well with the deodorants that I have. But detoxifying your body is super important to boost up that immune system. And guess what? You're going to need to do that for the fall and the winter because your immune system is going to need to be at its best to get through the fall and the winter. I'm just saying. Something bad's coming. Better prepare. Another very important supplement to take to boost up that immune system and to help with your cardiovascular system is olive leaf extract. Olive leaf extract, it's going to bring down systemic inflammation. That's going to help boost up your immune system and help with your vascular system. And oh, by the way, there are going to be people that are getting blood clots more often. Ooh, it's not just the inoculation. It's also the pathogen that causes it. Now, olive leaf extract is going to help to bring down that inflammation at the vascular level. And when you're reducing that inflammation at the vascular level, you're reducing the chances of clot formation. Super important. But you stack this with like nattokinase to break up any potential clots because it's fibrinolytic. Super important. And olive leaf extract brings down LDL levels. It increases your HDL levels. So you have less plaque formation. So it helps with your cardiovascular health. And when you bring down systemic inflammation, you're going to help with your cerebral health, your brain function. Amazing how that works too. If you are pulsed every year by what is coming in the fall and the winter, it'll cause higher levels of inflammation and early onset of problems with other diseases, like early onset of dementia, cardiovascular problems, the big C, and everyone knows what the big C is. Turbo C, right? Gotta pay attention. And when you pulse with these, what's coming in the fall and the winter, it affects your immune system. It dysregulates it. Well, if you have a more robust immune system, less chance of dysregulating. So you better start paying attention to me because something bad is coming. Pay attention. Not everybody's going to get it, but there's going to be an awful lot of people that get it. This fall and the winter is problematic. Be vigilant because it's not the actual event in the fall and the winter that's so problematic. It's the years later that is going to be problematic. And then it'll be too late. So people will say, well, it's going to be mild or, moderate, I'll be fine. Well, don't be surprised that you get long-term side effects. Better go get the olive leaf extract. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5. Take my advice. Clarity factor. Do you want to be a stupid liberal from Portland, Oregon? Probably not. Use clarity factor. This is going to get rid of your brain fog. It's going to allow you to concentrate and over time help to build those dendritic connections, help to improve your neuroplasticity. And when that happens, you're going to think faster, your memory's going to improve. So this is a great neurostack. Super important to help to mitigate the problems that are going to start to arise for people that are 40 years of age or older because of the crisis of 2020. Because like I keep on saying, 30% of the people out there that are age 40 or older, 30% are going to get early onset of dementia. Out of that 30% in the United States, 75% will be due to either micro hemorrhaging or micro clotting, causing ischemic issues in the brain. And when that's small, it Swiss cheeses your brain slowly. 24.5% will be due to amyloidosis. And less than 0.5% will be due to prion disease. Wake up. This is happening now. But it's really going to blip up in 5 years. Just like I've said, what was going to happen with the big C? And that blipped up. Now, you don't want to pay attention? Don't pay attention. But there's ways to mitigate the problem. Let's go back to Pam Bondi.
Task force beginning its operation. Protests are erupting in Portland, Oregon, after the president announced he's sending in 200 National Guard troops. Oregon is now suing the administration over this, and the Department of Homeland Security requesting 100 troops into Illinois to help protect the facilities following the attack on an ICE facility in Dallas where 3 detainees were shot. Fox can confirm a second detainee was shot and on life support. He died this morning, AG. How are you dealing with this pushback from Democrats wanting to stop your efforts to make people feel safer?
Yeah, don't you find it interesting that the highest...
Walking is everything to me. Hip surgery became unavoidable.
Deborah and I, we just connected. Yeah, don't you find it interesting that the highest crime rate cities don't want their cities to be protected? It's truly remarkable that they're arguing with us that they don't want the National Guard in to protect them. I'm on the phone with Christina and with Ph.D. constantly, all of our agencies. Here's what we're doing in Chicago first. We are sitting, you've got a governor who doesn't want to help us. You've got mayors who don't want to help us. You've got woke DAs who don't want to help us. So if they're not going to help the people of their cities, we're going to help them. We're sending in FBI, of course, DEA, U.S. Marshals, ATF to back up our ICE men and women who are there following the law. We're doing that in Chicago and, yes, in Portland. Troops are going to come into Portland. In Memphis right now, last night was the first night of our operation, making Memphis safe again, Maria. It's exactly what we did in D.C. We're using the same blueprint. Secretary Hegseth and I are going to be out there this week with our people in Memphis. Maria, last night we arrested, I think this is breaking news, we arrested 9 people, took 2 guns off the street in our first night of the surge. Here's what's different in Memphis. We have a mayor who's cooperating with us. Mayor Young is cooperating. We've got our 2 senators, Senator Hagerty and Senator Blackburn, who are helping us. We have Governor Lee, who's working hand in hand with us. We've already had Kash Patel and the FBI in there already, making multiple arrests and lowering the surge. Now we have our U.S. Marshals, our DEA, our FBI, and we have additional officers, and we have them working hand in hand with the National Guard. Last night, we deputized 219 members of the National Guard to be special U.S. Marshals. And we're going to keep fighting. Here's why. In 2024, Memphis had the highest violent crime rate in the entire country. That's outrageous. And so many businesses are pouring into Memphis. So many great AI companies, tech companies. And we want to make Memphis safe for them. The mayor wants to make it safe. And we're going to work hand in hand with them. In 2025, they've already had 149 homicides. And it's going to stop. And it's going to stop now thanks to Donald Trump. He's going to protect these cities. We're going to protect all of these great cities around the country, and we're going to go in and help all of them one by one and keep them safe.
Yeah, last night was the first surge in Memphis, and you're going there on Wednesday morning with Pete Hegseth. What are you going to be looking for specifically, AG? And why do you think there's so much violence in these cities? What is prompting this?
Well, I can tell you the violence, first of all, an 18-year-old murdered a Memphis police officer, and he had been let out without any bail just prior to that murder. Because you have a woke source DA there, they're letting people out, they're not holding them accountable. So we're coming in with all of our federal agents, and we are going to charge them federally whenever possible. We're going to keep them in federal custody, no officers, no offers, and if you touch a federal officer, you will be prosecuted. You touch a federal officer, and we're going to hold you in jail, in a federal jail, and we are going to prosecute you. That's what's going to stop crime. And working hand in hand with the local Memphis Police Department, they've been great. We're going to come in and share intelligence and get these violent criminals off the street. It's got to stop. I mean, these are our cities. Memphis is a beautiful historical city, and people are getting killed every day. 125 murders so far. Last night, we got 2 guns off the street, and that's just the beginning. So Secretary Hegseth and I are going in there together this week. We're going to meet. I did it the whole time we were in D.C. We're meeting with all of our troops, meeting all of our federal agents, all of the state police on the ground to show them that we support them. We're meeting with the mayor, all the locals, so we can work hand in hand to make Memphis safe again. And it's a shame that Portland, that Chicago, that these cities aren't begging Donald Trump to come in there and help them.
Yeah, it's just incredible. I mean, finally, some accountability. I want to get your take on this 37 people that Joe Biden commuted from death row. You recently ordered 8 federal inmates, once on death row for multiple murders, to be transferred to the notorious Supermax prison in Colorado. Now, former President Biden commuted the sentences of those 37 federal death row inmates a month before leaving office. Why? Did he do it, or was that the auto pen? He moved the classification from execution to life without the possibility of parole. AG, what do you want to say about that? I know you met with the families, right? You met with the victims' families here.
I did, Maria. I met with almost all of the 37 families from all different parts of this country. Some of the most horrific, violent crimes you can ever imagine. Just horrific people gunned down, a family, a husband and wife in a park gunned down, a bank teller gunned down, met with all of their family members. Just horrific, violent rapes and murders of people. And some of them, it made the heartbreak even worse because they learned about it on Christmas Eve. The Biden administration, and I say the administration because I firmly believe Joe Biden didn't know what was happening. The Biden administration didn't even let these families know this was happening. And then they're learning about it. Christmas Eve, they're doing this. They're giving gifts to some of the worst of the worst murderers. So I met with all of these families and I told them, I said, we're looking at everything. I can't talk about the auto pen right now, Maria, for good reason. We're looking at everything, but what I can do for these families is I can put these monsters like they're sitting on death row, and I'm moving them to the Supermax facility. Just learned that some of them are suing me. I find that rich, don't you? These inmates are suing me. So we're going to put them in the Supermax facility, and they are going to be treated like they're still sitting on death row, because that's how they should. We found that some of them were taking art classes. They were sitting out in the sun at these prison facilities after Biden administration let them off death row. And these families, these victims' families, deserve so much more than that. And we're going to help them every step of the way.
Again, I mean, why these cities and why this significant violence? Is it all because of these policies that make it impossible to see any consequences for crime?
Yes.
Well, sure.
It's a combination of ultra-liberalism and lack being soft on crime.
Well, sure. You have these woke DAs who are Soros appointed. A lot of them are Soros elected. They're DAs. They should be public defenders. They shouldn't be prosecutors when they're letting people out. They're not even arguing to keep violent criminals in on bond. They get out and they're killing other people. They're committing horrific crimes, and there are no consequences. So we're coming in federally because there are consequences under Donald Trump. You will go to prison.
Now, how do you stop the funding of these radical groups? Anna Paulina Luna sent a letter to the DOJ and FBI recently talking about one group, Neville Sigmund, who she said is having ties to the Communist Party and is funding a lot of this violence. We know that President Trump has said that George Soros has been funding all of this and he's going to look into it. How do you stop that?
Yeah, and Maria, Representative Congresswoman Luna has sent us some great information. We're looking at everything. I've spoken to her. She's been great trying to help this administration, but nothing is off the table. It doesn't matter if you're a billionaire. It doesn't matter who you are. If you're helping to fund these organizations who are committing violent acts, we are looking at you. That's as much as I can say now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to understand how much of this is domestic and how much of this is coming from outside forces, international forces, adversarial forces, because I know that there has been this Marxist threat running through this economy, running through America now for a little while. And I'm wondering if the CCP is behind some of this to continue undermining the U.S.
You're very wise, Maria. That's all I'll say. Kash Patel and our FBI agents, the International Security Division, we're looking at everything because we also have to have fair and free elections in this country as well.
Yeah, for sure. And so you're looking at Memphis, you're going to Chicago, you're looking at these big cities. What is next on the list for you, AJ, in terms of the potential for federal troops to go and put safety, the laws down on safety?
Well, we had a lot of meetings yesterday about Portland, of course. We're going to go in there. We're going to protect our ICE officers. I issued a memo late yesterday to help Secretary Noem saying that in Chicago, in Portland, in all of these cities where they are refusing National Guard, these governors don't want to deploy their own National Guard, but we can send in more FBI agents, more ATF, more DEA, more marshals to help the state police do their job because the state elected officials aren't helping them. It's truly remarkable that they don't want to keep the people of their own city safe, but Donald Trump does. We're going to help keep all Americans safe, regardless of what these local officials want. And hopefully they won't be in office much longer.
All right, AG, we so appreciate your work and your leadership on all of this. Thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you, Maria.
All right, AG Pam Bondi.
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Myotrol. I mean, if you've been paying attention to what we just heard, you're going to need to build muscle because there's going to be a civil war in the United States. Myotrol will help with the gene expression to build muscle. This works really well with individuals that are 40 years of age or older. Why? When you get older, you start to methylate genes. When you methylate genes, you're starting to reduce the expression or turning off genes. This is part of the aging process. Well, you can slow that down. If you've been paying attention to me and you follow my anti-aging protocol, you're slowing down the methylation of your genes. That's how it works, right? With Myotrol, this is polyphenols, flavonoids, and lignans to help with the gene expression to build muscle. You do resistance training, you take Myotrol, drink it with filtered water, and guess what? You start to build muscle and maintain muscle mass. That's super important. Into your geriatric years, you're going to have more vitality, you're going to be moving around. This also helps the health of your mitochondria, so you're going to have more ATP to maintain that muscle. So this is a great anti-aging supplement that you should be adding to your protocol. And make sure you do resistance training. Now, if you're an athlete, younger or older, you will benefit from Myotrol. Why? It will help you to build muscle for your sport and help you recover from your workout. So take Myotrol if you're an athlete, younger or older, or if you're 40 years of age or older and you're not an athlete. But make sure you do some resistance training and take it every day. Build up that muscle. It's really important, especially your back muscles. Vitamin B complex, super important to take every day. It has the B vitamins that you need to improve your mitochondria. The first 4 B vitamins in this complex will help to increase your ATP. That's super important. Your cells will perform better and your cellular metabolism will perform better. And it has B12 to help protect your neurons. Super important. Protect those nerves and neurons. I've been saying this for a long time, because of that pro-inflammatory response from the 2020 crisis, your nerves are going to be damaged and degraded over time because of the high inflammation levels. You need to bring down that inflammation levels and protect those neurons. And a great way to do that, great way to do it is to take the vitamin B complex and stack it with other supplements that I have to bring down inflammation, like the lignans and the gladiator barley or the heirloom barley. But another great supplement that helps to bring down inflammation and helps to boost up that immune system, boost up your cardiovascular health, and help with your brain function is ashwagandha root. Why? When you are chronically inflamed, and when you chronically have these pro-inflammatory cytokines, because of diet or because of injury or whatever, you have high levels of cortisol. High levels of cortisol does damage to your tissues. You age faster when you have chronic cortisol levels. In addition, when you have high levels of glucose, you're aging faster, right? And both of those are causing problems with your immune system and your endocrine system. And when you have high sugar content in your vascular system, it causes damage to the brain. When you have high levels of inflammation, it causes damage to the brain. You want to bring that down, all right? So take ashwagandha root, bring down the cortisol levels. That will help to boost up your immune system and boost up your cardiovascular system and control that blood glucose level. Super important. So you're targeting multiple systems, your brain function, your vascular system, and your immune system. And you can be stacking it with the vitamin B complex to help with your neurons. So you're bringing down that inflammation, you're helping with your glucose and your cortisol levels, and you're protecting your neurons and helping with your cellular metabolism. So a great stack would be the ashwagandha root, the vitamin B complex, and the Myotrol. So please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. If you spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. All right, let's listen into Bloomberg.
Go ahead. I figure I'm cutting edge with my Sirius XM.
Okay. Do you still have your CDs?
No.
You got rid of all of those?
Yeah.
Okay. We still have CDs, and I don't want to throw them away, but they're obviously useless at this point.
Vinyl's coming back.
I know, that's true.
I would say it's a comeback.
It takes up a lot of...
Vinyl ain't coming back. You gotta be a boomer to be having a vinyl collection.
A rally through the final stretch of 2025. Meanwhile, President Trump announcing on Truth Social Our movie making business has been stolen from the United States by other countries, like stealing candy from a baby. In order to solve this never-ending problem, I will impose a 100% tariffs on all movies made outside of the U.S. So interesting mix of things going on here with markets and movies and Hollywood. Brianna, I get tariffs exist to try to, help domestic industry. Do you love helping out Hollywood with tariffs?
I actually think this might hurt Hollywood. A lot of these Hollywood industries, they go to places like the UK, Canada, Australia, because there's very attractive tax incentives there. And I think that Trump threatening to impose 100% tariff actually exposes the hypocrisy of these Hollywood elites, because they want all these social government programs expanded. Yeah, you can raise the taxes, but as soon as it's going to hit their bottom line, they flee to other countries. So I think this is a great move to show their hypocrisy, to bring back, movie making to America, and to hopefully change their minds for the next election.
Jackie, do you want movie making brought back to America?
I sure do.
Is Hollywood making the kind of movies that you want to see a heck of a lot more of?
No.
Absolutely. And actually, Canada, for example, a lot of the movies on the Hallmark Channel are made in Canada.
I'll tell you, most of the movies are garbage. It's garbage. They're pushing an agenda. They have a terrible cast. Look at what happened with Star Wars. Star Wars is a modern day, almost like Greek classic, all right? But once Disney bought it and turned it woke, they destroyed the franchise, totally destroyed it. That was like the canary in the coal mine, because that happened before the whole Bud Light stuff. But they totally destroyed it. They didn't. Luke Skywalker didn't talk on the big screen for decades, and when they had Luke Skywalker on that scene at the end with the new series, he didn't speak, and it was obvious it was done by a female that had an woke agenda. It was obvious. They totally destroyed Star Wars. So tell me, what movie is really good out there that you'd really want to see? It's rare. Very, very, very rare. Because it's one, when you go there and you're sitting in the movie theater, they're bombarding you with a bunch of ads. Two, because of the social discohesion that we have, you don't know if you're going to walk out there alive. And three, the movies are pushing woke agendas in most cases. Not always, but in most cases. No, Hollywood sucks now. And it's too expensive.
Are just gorgeous, but we've got beautiful, great planes here too, where we can do it. Trump went after Hollywood last time around too, in his first term. He made agent fees that impacted Hollywood. When they pay their agents to secure the roles, that used to be a deductible expense, a business expense. He took that away. He knows how to sort of push on them where he needs to, and this is another way of doing it. But listen, it's not just about manufacturing of furniture or trucks or all the things that we were talking about last week, kitchen cabinets. It's also doing production here too. So if you're going to do it, throw the whole kitchen sink in and get on board with this. I think.
Now, there are people that are a little concerned about the profitability of certain movies, all right? Now, look at George Clooney. Good actor. He's a decent actor, all right? I think he's full of himself when it comes to politics. I think he thinks that his thoughts are more important than your thoughts or my thoughts, and I'm sure that your thoughts and my thoughts on politics are far superior than his, all right? But he has this virtue signaling that's going on. Well, if you've been noticing, he's not making movies. He can't get funding. Why? Because he's so anti-Trump. So what does he do? He does some Broadway or off-Broadway stuff, right? With there was a show that he did. It was about a news anchor. But the thing is that he's doing lower budget type stuff, trying to stay relevant, but not like a superstar in terms of Hollywood because he can't get the funding because he's so anti-Trump. Now the question is that when Trump gets out of office, will he still have a silver screen type career? Who knows? Who knows? Now I do think that he produced a film about crew rowing that I thought was really good. He wasn't in the movie, but he produced it and directed it, I believe. It was really good. I think that film goes right in line with Good Will Hunting or Dead Poets Society. It's of that kind of era and that kind of theme. So I think that was really done well, but he wasn't an actor. So maybe he should go into directing or maybe into producing. But the thing is that himself on the silver screen, he can't get funding for films because he's so anti-Trump. So the point I'm making is there is a pushback. Conservatives are pushing back on Hollywood, and where did most of the money come? Where did most of the money come from for Harris? Very rich, wealthy individuals from the West Coast and the East Coast. But if they were coming from the West Coast, they were either in tech or in Hollywood. So if Trump goes after the people that are in Hollywood by not giving them those tax benefits and slapping tariffs because they're making their movies overseas, that hurts their bottom line, and he's hurting the Democratic Party for raising funds. It's a genius move. It's a genius move. Do you think that the Democratic Party wouldn't do something similar to the Republicans? Of course they would. The Democratic Party are mobsters. They work in a mobster mentality. They want the black person to make sure that they vote Democrat, stay on that urban plantation. They've always been for slavery. Look at what's happening with illegal immigration. Cheaper labor. And with cheaper labor, that's just another, that's modern day slavery. All right, let's continue with this video here.
Is doing the right thing. And I think that, Hollywood, when it talks about this country and the social programs and the need, then pay your taxes. For those people who say the rich people don't pay their fair share, they should do their production here and pay for all of that stuff that helps the people, the social programs that they support. They should put their money where their mouth is.
All right, Jacob, we got a lot of fans of Make Hollywood American again. Is this going to make Hollywood American again? Do you like it?
I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to. There's a rule in TV not to take on the topic, but it is really hard for me to care about Hollywood. They contribute, like, all of entertainment contributes like a drop in the bucket in terms of our GDP. It's like, is it 1%?
I would.
Is it even 1%?
I don't think it's probably that much.
I think it's like maybe 1% of our GDP. The ChatGPT says it's 4%, which I think is too much because it's throwing everything in there. It's including all arts and cultural industries contribute about 3 to 4% of our GDP, which I think is wildly overstating it. My biggest concern is we started this show talking about all of the issues that President Trump is trying to tackle overseas, and a market that is kind of blithely ignoring every imaginable risk.
Love it.
That we're facing. Why do you wait? Because you can ignore geopolitical risk, right? But investors are also ignoring economic risk, financial risk, fiscal risk.
Help me understand.
Why are you?
Okay.
Why is that good?
So
Well, I guess there's
don't
opportunity
see economic
to
or
short.
financial risk. So maybe I need some you to elucidate. What are the economic and financial risks you see? Because I look at an economy that's accelerating at 3.8% growth now estimated by the Fed. Labor market's cooling but under control. AI is energizing, no pun intended, actually pun intended, the entire economy. And it's not just AI that's driving GDP growth. If you look, there's contributions from every area of the sector, and corporate profitability is getting ready to accelerate even more. If you look at this bull market from 2020 to 2025, 75% of it has been driven on earnings growth, not multiple expansion. It's been mostly on the profits of companies doing better and investors doing better for investing in them. So that's good. All signs point to that continuing into the next 2 to 3 quarters.
If everything is so awesome-tastic in this nation, why is this administration running a $2 trillion budget deficit?
So now we're talking about two different things.
No, I'm saying that's a risk.
That
is a risk that needs to be factored in. That you have a $2 trillion budget deficit, despite we're basically borrowing money and running a massive budget deficit when times are good, and emergency programs that never go away. And the energy department, throw up that graph, is telling people don't use the word subsidy, or look at that, tax breaks, tax credits, and subsidies. Don't use those words. Oh, okay. So we're going to pour more than $500 million into coal and call it an investment. That's awfully Bidenomics of you.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with
Stop spending money.
But they won't. They've shown that they can't. So that's why gold and Bitcoin have been rallying, because that's the hedge against runaway politicians.
It's warning you that the dollar is collapsing, and that's actually what triggered ultimately led to
the dollar is weakening relative to the euro. The dollar is strengthening relative to the yen, the Japanese yen. Now, if you look at DXY, we are moving towards a more average 10-year average for the dollar, the value of the dollar. Now, in terms of Bitcoin, I've been following it very closely. Bitcoin is very volatile and is trading at 114 right now, below its all-time high. If the dollar was weakening so much, then you should see Bitcoin going up. And even if you hold to the belief that there is a strong correlation between Bitcoin and equities, you would think that Bitcoin should be above 120. It's not. There's some funny business going on with Bitcoin. So his comment about Bitcoin, I'm not so sure. Bitcoin's got some whales in there that affect the actual market. We've had legislation that helps with regulatory environment. That should be Bitcoin positive. Didn't really move the needle that much in terms of being above 120. Didn't happen. But everyone thought it would. We're at near all-time highs for the equity market and the Mag 7. Why isn't it going up? Something funny about Bitcoin. Something's not right about Bitcoin.
A financial crisis in
We can go
2007.
long-term capital management crisis. You can go financial crisis. Yes, there's always a black swan event. I do agree with you that runaway spending is the big risk, existential risk to this. But politicians have shown time and time again, left, right, center, they don't know how to do anything but keep spending.
But that's the risk. I'm looking at the fixed income risk. I don't mean to I take the wheel and drive the car into the ditch, but that's the existential risk that the market is ignoring. Credit.
First of all, if it's a black swan event, it's an unknown, so you don't even know. If you can articulate the possibility of something, then it's either a Dragon King or a gray rhino. That's just the way it is. Now, if there's lots of people saying there's a warning and no one's paying attention, there's constant dissidence, ooh, that's a gray rhino. Now, if there is information that shows that there is a problem with the system. And you don't fully appreciate the catastrophic effects of it. That is a Dragon King. Gray Rhino, you know what the catastrophic effects are, but there's cognitive dissonance. So we have these reporters, news anchors, talking heads. They don't even use the right terminology on anything. They're not that bright. I was listening to actually a individual was talking about the history of, or the biography of Tucker's family, the Swansons, right? And Tucker Carlson didn't do well in prep school, didn't do well in college, dropped out of college, supposedly wasn't accepted to the CIA, talks like he's a know-it-all. He's preppy. He came from money, all right? But he acts like he's a know-it-all. You know, have you ever noticed that when he tries to corner one of his guests, he'll go, "You don't know? You don't know?" Well, most of his guests that he's had on actually graduated from college. He didn't graduate from college. Why doesn't he know about engineering? Why doesn't he know about medicine? Why didn't he know that there was Barrack and Dr. Shi that was involved in the crisis? Why doesn't he know? He has that kind of like attitude when he's doing his podcast, and even when he had his show on Fox, he had that deer in the headlight look. What a dipshit. And now all MAGA loves listening to him. Now his interview with Putin, I thought was really telling. I thought it was a good interview. But he still has this condescending attitude, even though he's not really formally educated. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be formally educated, but the thing is that someone that knows something and then also realizes they don't know something and they try to improve on their knowledge gap doesn't act like someone like Tucker. Tucker is condescending because he was privileged. He was grown up in a privileged environment. That's a sign of being privileged. So he's condescending. He has a condescending attitude, even though he's not that bright. He's not that smart. So, with that, we have all these people that are communicating to the masses on their different shows, either mainstream or podcasts. And you like just sit and dissect some of the things that they're saying, and you start to realize there's not that much substance to them. Like in this case, this guy didn't even know the differences between a Dragon King, a Gray Rhino, and a Black Swan, or a White Swan. Now, it's in my wheelhouse because of chaos theory. But he should understand these concepts. These are not concepts that are brand new. These are part of the lexicon now. He should be able to use them properly. Now, going to Tucker Carlson, this condescendingness that he knows it all. And then now you have it with Alex Jones, and then you have it with Stephen Bannon, and now you have it with this Nick, whatever his name is, Patenti, or whatever his name is. You know, so you have these like Stu Peters. You know, you have these people that are know-it-alls. They have a tendency to be conspiratorial. Many of them didn't finish college. And so they know it all. They know what it really is. They know. Very few people are polymaths. Very few. I'm one of them, but very few people are. And it's self-evident. It's axiomatic. When you see one, you know right away they are. And it's unfortunate that Tucker had to be condescending. But the reason why he's condescending is because when he looks in the mirror, he sees elements of self-doubt, elements of weakness, elements of he's not up to par. And he's trying to overcome it or hide it? You don't know? How did you not know? Did you see the way he acted towards Ted Cruz? How do you know? How do you don't know? Oh, my God. Meanwhile, Ted Cruz was first in his class at Harvard Law. I'm sure Ted Cruz is a lot smarter than Tucker Carlson. But we have a society that's so focused on, let's listen to Candace Owen or Tucker Carlson or whatever. And you listen to like what's happening right now with the whole Charlie Kirk thing. Really? Does it really matter in your life? How is your life going to change? There's something bad coming in the fall and the winter. Does the Charlie Kirk assassination going to change that? Is that going to move the needle in terms of your health and wellness? No. What about the Federal Reserve lowering rates and how it affects your home, your affordability? Isn't that more important than Charlie Kirk's assassination? Yeah. But when you listen to Candace Owen or individuals trying to investigate the Charlie Kirk assassination and all that, and that's all they're focused on, all it is a means to get clicks, to get views, and to get monetization. It's not about solving the problem. And in terms of pragmatism, Charlie Kirk's assassination and all the details involved in it means nothing to your life. Nothing. But you'll focus, there are people that will, maybe not you, but I mean, there will be people out there that have been so ingrained in this that it's like the next JFK conspiracy. And there is some weird things about it. But in terms of what's around the corner that affects your life right now and in the fall and the winter, don't you think that it's a little bit more important? Don't you think that bioweapon development in the world and how it is being used in foreign policy is a little bit more important than Charlie Kirk and his assassination? I would say so. Any thinking human being would have to come to the conclusion that bioweapon development worldwide and its low barriers of entry is the gray rhino compared to anything that's important about Charlie Kirk. Anything. His religiosity, his organization Turning Point, the money that he raised for the Republican Party, how he was debating certain young individuals to move towards conservatism, all of that is for naught compared to some of the more pertinent things that are happening in your life. But we literally have now a cottage industry of Charlie Kirk's assassination, just like what happened when JFK just was assassinated at the near the grassy knoll, and it turned into a whole cottage industry. Meanwhile, the war in Vietnam kept on plugging away under Johnson. Everybody was like, who did it? Everyone wanted to be a Sherlock Holmes. What's more important is the things that are going to hurt your life, the things that are going to hurt your financial stability, the things that are going to affect your constitutional freedoms, and pay attention to those instead of this sideshow shit. Bread and circus. I mean, we're literally the Roman Empire. Football is the gladiators. And all of this TikTok and YouTube and X and, the whodunit podcasters, that's bread and circus. It's bread and circus.
Markets, everything's fine. That's when you take the other side. When everything seems to be going just gravy, that's
that's when you worry.
You are a contrarian of sorts, Lou, from time to time. This seems like a very non-contrarian take because you're kind of riding
When the
this
facts
wave.
line up, I can't argue with the facts. Stock prices ultimately follow earnings over the longer term. Are these risks existential and real? Yes, they are, but stock markets remain irrational a lot longer than people can stay solvent betting against it. So you look at when people called the top in the dot-com era, it was like 96 and 97. The market ran for 3 years.
Well,
People are
that's
calling
when-
it top in AI right now. I'm telling you, the underlying fundamentals suggest
That's when Alan Greenspan called it. And nobody was looking at Alan Greenspan thinking, great stock picker. Well,
But now they're saying that to
Mr.
Jerome
I
Powell.
like writing on a legal pad in the bathtub.
We don't hire Fed chairs to be our stock pickers. That is true. But Jackie, wade into this debate a little bit because I think it's worth having. From the sort of the market perspective.
Businesses everywhere are turning to Gusto for payroll, benefits, and more. Save time. Save money.
From the sort of the market perspective, earnings perspective, things look okay. From the fiscal perspective, you've got the problems David came up with.
Yeah.
Credit is one of those things we're debating a lot right now. Corporate credit spreads over treasuries have shrunk big time.
Indicative of recession.
So again, it's another one of those situations where it's like, have we gotten too eager to buy that stuff because everyone's chasing yield? I don't know.
I worry about it. I have brought it up. Cyclically speaking, I don't see a market that can keep going at this pace and have it be sustainable. Some people have tried to change my mind, and on some days I'll buy into this whole AI is changing the whole situation and this is different this time. And then the wiser part of me says, I'm not so sure that it is. But you're talking about spending. We're talking about a lot of different things here. We're talking about the market and government. We're also dealing with this pending government shutdown, right? And you've got a president who's dealing with Democrats who want to spend. And they want to put all kinds of spending. They won't approve it. They will hold the country hostage. They will shut the government down if they don't get what they want. So this is the kind of world that we live in. And I still think about the big, beautiful bill. I know what the president was trying to do. He wanted to pass growth-creating policies, that would help the American people. A lot of that was tax incentivized. But he also had to rubber stamp a bunch of spending and not cuts that were deep enough for me. And so we've got to think about where we are as a nation, how much longer we can keep going at this pace. And $37 trillion is our national debt. It's not just a number on a paper. And we need politicians and officials who are going to look at it that way, figure out true ways to compromise. But otherwise, we're headed for not only, a problem situation in the markets, but eventually, Lou.
Well, always, yes. But right now, my job is to make money while the markets are good, right?
But we've got to get our personal fiscal house in order. And the problem is that the Democrats will just keep spending into complete oblivion because I think they want to see the whole thing blow up.
Well, you get a shutdown, you might get some permanent firing out of that. I don't know that Democrats wanted that, but that's what Russ Vogt over at OMB is talking about.
Shutdowns are still good for the market.
They don't
Shut it down. Shut it down.
Okay,
Just
so-
let it happen. We're not political. We don't have to run for our jobs. Well, not for a while.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, Jet.
We're here for a while.
If you get a shutdown, you have a lot more time to drink coffee.
Yes.
Today, I believe, is National Coffee Day. Jackie, what's going on?
It is, and I love a good cup of black coffee, and that's the cheapest way that you're going to get it anywhere, including Starbucks. The coffee chain celebrating with the launch of its new protein lineup starting today. Starbucks new protein lattes. And cold foam drinks are available for purchase. The new lineup includes 4 signature protein drinks, along with a variety of protein cold foam flavors. Customers can also substitute protein-boosted milk for an extra charge, of course. And I learned this morning that some of our anchors here at Fox, like Brian Kilmeade, they do a lot of sugar with just like a little bit of coffee added in there. But Starbucks has been struggling, Brian. We've talked about their food and drink options. Some have said they need to streamline the menu. In other ways, like this initiative, they're expanding their offerings. We'll see if that's going to be beneficial. I'd love to see what the charge for an upshot of protein is.
Brianna, is
your $8 drink?
Is protein coffee going to get the younger crowd excited about Starbucks again? Is it going to make it that click?
Stop spending your money at Starbucks and just get a nice coffee, at Dunkin' or Starbucks is way too expensive. But in terms of protein, all right, taking protein, powder protein, high quality powder protein is very important. But the thing is that not all proteins are equally weighted. So, like for example, they're taking protein within the coffee and they're adding sugar. For some customers, are adding sugar. You can get a sugar-free one. But the thing is that protein doesn't have the same type of benefits of taking high-quality barley. All right, heirloom barley that you can't get at a store. This is special genetics of the barley. All right, so people are doing this protein stuff. They're going to get fat. Trust me on this. These people that are doing these protein shakes are going to get fat over time and unhealthy because they'll just keep on adding more sugar and they'll add more protein. They're not going to be doing weight training or anything like that. It's not high quality protein. It's this whey, right? It's crap. It's crap. All right. Let me tell you how to do this, where you can use high density protein to actually slow down the aging process, and you get thinner and you are healthier. All right. Now I have gladiator barley and heirloom barley. It's a protein. It's a powder. You mix it with soft foods like hummus, yogurt, or even applesauce. You can mix it with just filtered water, put it in milk, or you can make a smoothie. But the point here is that you do resistance training. And that will help you to build muscle. And as you're building muscle, you become less insulin resistant. Because insulin resistance leads to metabolic dysfunction. That's diabetes. That's pre-diabetic issues and all that. You don't want that. So you want to build muscle, take the high density protein, the gladiator barley or the heirloom barley. And this barley, like I said, is heirloomed. So it's higher quality. There are micronutrients in this that you can't get over at Starbucks because it would cost you a fortune. All right? So you can't get anything better than this. So gladiator barley, do the resistance training, add it to your foods or with milk or however you want to take it, but take it once a day, do the resistance training, and it's going to detoxify your body. I'm sure that their protein doesn't detoxify your body. This will bring down inflammation. I'm sure that latte with a bunch of sugar isn't going to bring down inflammation. It's going to increase inflammation and heart disease and brain dysfunction. Gladiator barley is going to bring down that inflammation and detoxify your body. That's super important for your immune system, your endocrine system, help with your brain function. When you're bringing down inflammation, you're lowering your toxicity levels, your different organ systems are going to perform better, including your neurons. Your vascular system will improve. You'll have less plaque buildup because you have less inflammation, because you need that inflammatory response to cause the plaque formation chain to form. And it's going to soak up free radicals with superoxide dismutase. So your cells perform better, your tissues perform better, your brain function performs better. You're building muscle. And when you're soaking up free radicals at the vascular level, you're reducing the concentrations of oxidized LDL, which is what builds plaque. So which one do you prefer to take? Follow Dr. PaulCottrell's protocol here and take the gladiator barley every day, or go to Starbucks and get fat, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to have problems with your A1C levels. You're going to have problems with your brain. You're going to have problems with your cardiovascular health. You're going to have problems with your immune system, your endocrine system, by going to Starbucks and taking their protein drink. Stupid. And people wonder why we have tens of billions of dollars in healthcare costs. Well, the best way to save money in terms of how much Americans spend in the aggregate in healthcare is actually look in the mirror and say, you need to actually improve your health. And when everyone does that, we won't have this healthcare problem. Because most diseases in the United States, chronic diseases, are self-induced. And this is a great way to reverse it. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the gladiator barley and do some weight training and you'd be amazed on the benefits, health benefits that you'll obtain. Instead of going to Starbucks and wasting your money and getting fat and poor.
So they gotta go.
I don't think I have any leg to stand on. I don't drink coffee and I don't drink protein drinks.
Okay.
Well, you're not in on that one then. Lou, what do you
I'm
think?
not going there. I mean, are these collagen peptides that have benefits for skin elasticity, or is this like protein powder for us that work out at the gym? I'm still not going to Starbucks for this.
And I don't know if I want that in my coffee.
What is it? Does it have flavor? Does it just make it like soupy? What
They
is it?
said 4 different flavors with cold foam.
4 different flavors.
Yeah.
Megan.
Yeah.
Because people who ingest extra protein this way, they're very often part of the health movement. Well, where does the protein come from, right? Is it whey protein? Well, that'll make you gassy.
Yes, I was gonna say.
Is it from animals? Is it hoof? Is it hoof
or peas
protein? Just curious, because again, it's like, I'm so healthy. Let me just put some random powder in my drink, not knowing really where it comes from.
This is the reason why the heirloom barley and the gladiator barley is so important to use. It's nutrients rich, and it's going to help to detoxify your body and bring down inflammation than this crap that they're going to give you over at Starbucks. See, heirloom barley is where to go, not just regular barley, heirloom barley, stuff that our ancestors way back 100,000 years ago used, or 50,000 years ago. Because if you look in agriculture, what has happened is that it has higher yield but less nutrition. But if you use this heirloom version, you're going to have the higher nutrition. And that's a key point. So please go to my store and get that heirloom barley or gladiator barley and get healthy. It works. It works, and it works fast. You'll notice the difference within 72 hours.
So healthy, I'm just protein uptaking.
I'm gonna say you're a no on this.
I just, like, if you want to eat protein, eat some eggs.
Right.
Just boiled eggs.
Are you saying I shouldn't be drinking my protein tea?
Right. Having a well-balanced diet and having protein in that diet is super important. You know, meats, eggs. Yeah, I totally agree with that. Certain types of vegetables will have high levels of beans and stuff like that. That's super important. But it's also important to take protein, this barley that I have on my store, because what that's going to do is also have the benefits of boosting up your immune system and your endocrine system by detoxifying your body and lowering inflammation. Eating eggs isn't going to do that. Eating beef isn't going to do that. So it is important to realize that part of the anti-aging protocol is to have a balanced diet and eat properly and eat high quality foods. But it's also the realization that to slow down the aging effects and to have your body heal from all of the advanced aging that has been taking place because of your environment and you're being bombarded by toxins and chemicals and all that stuff, that you have to use higher quality and higher concentrations of certain types of supplements to be able to have your body heal, slow down the methylation process. But if you just eat eggs and beef and you constrain your diet in a certain way where it's not eating too much and you work out, you'll be healthy, but are you anti-aging? See, there's this big difference between are you healthy or are you healthy and anti-aging? Now, if you just want to be healthy, just eat eggs and beef. But if you want to actually have your body heal, especially after the aftershock of 2020, you're going to need to go towards protocols that are very similar to anti-aging protocols that have your body healed. You can't heal your body with just eating beef and eggs. Get fucking real. You don't detoxify your body by eating beef and eggs, but you can do that with the heirloom barley. And it's a high density protein. See, it's about the nutritional value and the combination in the higher doses. And when you mix it with other things, it's about stacking. If you're mixing it with things like the vitamin B complex, or the clarity factor, or resveratrol, or C60, you got a powerful neurostack there. Can't do that with beef and eggs. You want to be healthy, or you want to slow down the aging process and be healthy? That's really the issue here. And again, not well versed in the topic, and they just spout off bullshit. They did get it right that Starbucks protein is not going to be good for you.
But you're drinking in a cup with microplastics.
It has a piece
there.
of like bone in it. That's how you get
A bone
protein,
broth?
like bone.
Bones.
Bone tea.
Gelatin?
Yeah.
Comes from bone.
All right, we will break down this protein conversation later.
You see,
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Another way to boost up your immune system and help with your endocrine system, and to weather the storm in the fall and the winter, isn't to go to Starbucks, because Starbucks isn't going to help you. It's to go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the lignans. Lignans will help with your immune system and your endocrine system. It's going to bring down inflammation, and it's going to soak up free radicals. So this is it's an antioxidant, and it's going to bring down inflammation. That's super important for your immune system. Better start taking this. Get prepared for the fall and the winter. Trust me on this. Take this every day, and you're going to see huge benefits in slowing down the aging process. And you stack it with the ashwagandha root and the turmeric, and it's a powerful stack for your cardiovascular health, for your immune system, and as a neurostack to reduce stress on neurons, because you're lowering the inflammation at the cerebral level. Can't do that with going to Starbucks.
When the sawdust settles and the engine finally roars, the thing you care about most is
Israel would have my full backing to finish the job of destroying the threat of Hamas, but I hope that we're going to have a deal for peace. And if Hamas rejects the deal, which is always possible, they're the only one left. Everyone else has accepted it. But I have a feeling that we're going to have a positive answer. But if not, as you know, baby, you'd have our full backing to do what you would have to do.
An historic day at the White House yesterday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu accepting President Trump's 20-point peace plan to end the war in Gaza. The plan includes an immediate ceasefire and disarming of Hamas, giving Hamas 72 hours to release all of the hostages, dead or alive. Israel would also release 250 prisoners and 1,700 Palestinians detained after October 7th. Israeli troops would withdraw from the region, allowing humanitarian aid to flow into Gaza consistently. While Palestinians will not be expelled from Gaza, a board of peace will be created, headed by President Trump and former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair, until the Palestinian Authority is in a position to take over. Joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst. He's chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Jack Keane, back with us. General, great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. Give us your reaction to the president's plan.
Well, it's very significant that it's comprehensive and it's also complicated. But the reality is that what makes this plan different is two things. One, there's no partial release of hostages, which is something Hamas has always wanted. And two, it's a war termination deal. It brings an end to the conflict in Gaza. And that is something that the president insisted on, those two features. All the hostages released, and number two, we're going to end the war. And he's got the buy-in from all the major countries in the region. Obviously, Iran was not asked, and also from Israel. And what remains is Hamas. And what's the incentive here for Hamas to make the deal? They've always said no in the past. Well, there's a couple of things that are different. Now, one, the president, and you played the tape there, that's central to this deal, is that if Hamas doesn't take the deal, then Israel is going to finish them, and the president of the United States is giving them his full support to do that. That is certainly a pressure point on Hamas. Also, if Hamas accepts the deal and then reneges on disarming some weeks from now, then Israel will go in and finish it with the full support of the President of the United States. And the other thing dealing with Hamas, they're not the same organization, obviously, they were on October the 7th, Maria. They're down around the third tier of leadership with what has been killed there. And secondly, most of their fighters, some 20,000 of them have been killed. They still have thousands of fighters. A lot of them are young teenagers. There's still some experienced fighters, but they're not the majority. So this is a very different organization. It's weak.
Now, this happened, this war started on October 7th of 2023. All right? Gaza is completely decimated. Hamas is a fraction of what it used to be. Not fully rooted out. There's still hostages. But if you listen to Scott Ritter at the very beginning of the war, he said that the Israelis were going to completely lose on the battlefield. Does that look like completely lost in the battlefield? I don't think so. So once again, Scott Ritter got it wrong. Now, some people believe that Scott Ritter is all right and blah, blah, blah. But I'm telling you, Mearsheimer and Scott Ritter have been wrong in terms of the performance on the battlefield by the Israelis. And there's not going to be a two-state solution. It's done. It's done. Because the Arab community within that region, especially the Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, aren't going to allow it to happen. If they say, well, we agreed to the peace, they'll eventually break it, and eventually this thing is going to happen. It's going to flare up again. The only answer to this is just let the Palestinians and the Israelis duke it out, and whoever wins, wins. And the American taxpayer should stop funding this and have the Israelis fund it 100%, use their own soldiers, and force them to stop kicking the can down the road and let them go all out on it. And if they lose, they lose. If they win, they win. Statehood is not a God-given right. You got to fight for it. But Scott Ritter thought that, the Israelis were going to lose on the battlefield. They didn't lose on the battlefield. Totally not. Now, I have a feeling, why is that? Because if you probably pay attention to what has been written down for the last 2,000 years, it's meant to be to rebuild the temple. And it can't be rebuilt by Muslims. It can't be rebuilt by Christians. It can only be rebuilt by the Kohanim. That's it. Period.
At the leadership level, it's weakened at the fighting level already. Is that sufficient motivation for these guys to make the deal? Because Netanyahu's guaranteeing that they'll get out of there free and they'll go to a country of their choosing, and Israel will guarantee that they will get there and will not chase them down after. He's made a public declaration to that. We don't know the answer to that. What we do know is they've always said no in the past, despite the attractiveness of the deal. And this one is very attractive to them. It remains to be seen what's going to happen here. Hopefully, like everyone else, we would like them to see, yeah, okay, we're going to make a deal. It's in their interest to make it. They're going to survive it. And it's certainly in the region's interest to get this thing stabilized once and for all.
General, how will we know that the Palestinian Authority is reformed and ready to lead? What do you make of this board of peace governing Gaza until the Palestinian Authority is ready to govern?
Well, the Palestinian Authority is not going to govern. That has never been on the table. They would participate in a committee that's going to overlook it. So we're attaching too much to that. Now, the Israelis were opposed to anybody from the Palestinian Authority being involved in that committee. Why? Because for 25, 30 years, they're fundamentally corrupt, because they support Hamas, because they supported October 7th, because every time a suicide bomber from the West Bank, under the supervision of Mahmoud Abbas, kills Israeli citizens, they get a martyrdom reward for their families. And they're anointed with pictures all over the place. So they don't want them to have any part of this, and they're corrupt. So they have to reform, quote, reform. Well, they can't reform overnight with evidence. Their participation in this is at some distance, even then, based on the condition that they must reform and the evidence has to be there. That was a concession made to the Israelis, because the Israelis objected to them for being on the committee, not running anything, being on the committee, because of their corruption in the past and the fact that they've always supported Hamas.
Yeah, and I understand that. Let me move on to Russia.
After certainly military targets that are sustaining the war. And when we restrain ourselves, what we provide to the Russians is a sanctuary. It's a no-fire zone when we restrict our use of those weapons, and Russia knows it, and it gives them, freedom to do as they see fit here and not have to put troops there to protect those capabilities, and those troops could all go to the forward lines. So
I'm going to pivot over to another video. It's Eric Trump talking about Bitcoin will crush Wall Street's old financial system. I haven't seen this video. We'll see. But I have this feeling that Bitcoin is heavily influenced by whales going in and out of trades. So there's not that much liquidity there. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the NED Plus. NED Plus supplement will boost up your NED Plus levels, increase your energy, help you to repair DNA damage, and protect neurons. Super important. Ubiquinol. It's the most bioavailable form of CoQ10 that you can purchase. Ubiquinol is an antioxidant and soak up free radicals, reduce stress in the cell, help with the health of your mitochondria. Your energy levels will go up. You'll have more ATP, and it protects neurons. So a great neurostack to protect the neurons, which is super important, especially in the aftermath of 2020, is to take the ubiquinol and the NAD+. You can also stack it with C60, resveratrol, clarity factor. Those are great neurostacks. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Get the ubiquinol and the NAD+.
Hi, Heather. How are you? Well, Heather found out my Widowmaker was 97% stocked up. If it wasn't for my guardian angel.
We are awaiting President Trump. He's holding a press conference with Prime Minister of Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu. Meanwhile, folks, a lot of focus now, particularly on Wall Street, but the world on the crypto space. It continues to expand and is attracting a whole lot of new players, from Wall Street's biggest firms, who were once, of course, doubters, to Eric and Donald Trump Jr., whose company's American Bitcoin has quickly become a force. So
Right.
now American
That's true the last several months, that there are more businesses getting involved in Bitcoin. That's true. But I look at the price of Bitcoin, and it's suppressed. It's at 114 right now. It's trading at 100, and it's trading at 113,745 right at this moment in time. It should be at more than 120. Why? Why? Because of the regulatory environment is there. You have more investors going into ETFs that are tied to the underlying of Bitcoin. You have more exchanges. You have other companies investing, like Strategy and Eric's company. So why isn't it trading higher? There's a problem with Bitcoin, that's why. So now the people are coming out to try to promote it.
Strategy officer and Trump Organization Vice President, Executive Vice President Eric Trump Eric, I just want to start, because one of the things you said in this New York Post article that leaks out at everyone is that America's financial future, that crypto is America's financial future. And I'm curious when you had this epiphany, because a lot of people have had the same epiphany along the way.
Yeah. Well, Charles, I had the epiphany. I think you saw it. You probably reported on it better than anybody when I got debanked by everyone. I mean, Capital One sent me, sent me a letter in the middle of the night stripping 300 bank accounts from, golf courses and hotels. You know our properties as well as anyway. For doing absolutely nothing wrong. And then all of a sudden I started meeting people in the crypto space and I realized how brilliant they were. I realized how antiquated modern finance is. Laura and I went out to buy a house, right? When we got financing, because the rates under my father were like 2.1%. It took me 120 days to get a mortgage from a bank that I had banked with literally for 25 years, right? Because they had to go through Know Your Customer. I'm sitting there saying, this is crazy. Every single week, I'm chasing a swift wire transfer, payment that's coming in from one of the hotels or leaving one of the hotels. And if you don't send it by 4 o'clock on a Friday, it's not getting there until like Monday afternoon. And you're sitting there saying, why can't I send hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin overseas instantly or receive it instantly with virtually no fees? Bitcoin's the way of the future. American Bitcoin, which is the company that I founded, I'm very, very proud of. I think it's going to be one of the great Bitcoin companies anywhere in the world. And clearly, there's no doubt in my mind, cryptocurrency is going to replace traditional finance, TradFi, and it's happening so fast. I mean, cryptocurrency is literally outpacing, the growth of the internet, in the 90s, Charles. And I've never been so clear about something. I've never been able to see something so clearly in my life, and it's been a lot of fun to be a part of this.
Early on, folks had hit me to it, even though I didn't make the move quick enough. All pointed to the dollar, right? You talk about the financial system. That part of it, of course, the weaponization of the banking system against its own citizens is one thing. When we took Russia off the SWIFT network, that changed a whole lot of things. There's been an abuse of the system, but a lot of focus is on the dollar. Obviously, it's in trouble. I guess the distinction is that all governments seem to have abused themselves, their debts, financial shenanigans, but it feels like that also is a crucial part of why crypto is coming to the rescue.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of stable. Yeah, definitely. In terms of stable coins, 100%. I mean, in terms of Bitcoin is digital gold, just as better, right? I mean, There's a limited supply. Charles, if gold ever goes to $10,000 an ounce, you and I will bust down the walls of the building you're in right now. We'll find gold in that concrete, right? You can always find more supply if the price goes up. And with Bitcoin, there will never be 21 million and one Bitcoin. There will be 21 million. So it's finite. Every family in the world wants it. Every Fortune 500 company is starting to custody it. So it's gold, but you can actually transport it. How do you cash out gold? You take it down to the local pawn shop and, they melt it down. It's not practical. I mean, at 11 o'clock on a Saturday night while having, dinner with your wife, you can sell it. It's 24 hours. It has immediate liquidity. It's one of the greatest assets of our time. In terms of saving the dollar, there's no question. But in terms of, stable coins is saving the dollar. Listen, I'm the first one to bash our system because I've been on the receiving end of it, but we are the best financial system anywhere in the world. Nobody wants to be on the euro. No one wants to be on any of the Asian currencies. No one wants to be on any of the South American currencies. Guess what everybody in the world wants? They want the US dollar because we've got the reserve currency of the world. Imagine if you were living in a country in Africa or in South America, right, and you have 1,000% inflation a year. The second you get your paycheck, congratulations, it's gone. You may as well burn that money. Now, all of a sudden, what you can do is you can immediately transfer into, call it USD1, which is our stable coin, and you can be pegged exactly 1-to-1 with the US dollar on US Treasury. So you have got that security blanket. So when I always say that I think cryptocurrency saves the dollar and make sure it's a reserve currency indefinitely, it's the fact that we're going to attract trillions of dollars from all over the world and people who do not trust their governments, do not trust their financial systems, do not trust their banks, and want to hold U.S. denominated currency, which is what stablecoins do so well. So Bitcoin is the digital gold. I think it's the greatest asset of our time, going up 70% a year over year. And I think at American Bitcoin, we do it better than anybody. We're mining it at 50-cent dollar to obviously the cost of Bitcoin, which is about $114,000 right now. But on the stablecoin side, I really do believe it ensures that the U.S. dollar remains the reserve currency of the world.
So you made headlines recently with a call, Bitcoin surpassing 1 million. Everyone gets giddy and excited about that, but I've seen targets much higher. So the question is, how soon and what exactly will it take to get it there?
Well, listen, I mean, the floodgates are opening, right? For the first time, Schwab is costing, Bitcoin. Fidelity is costing Bitcoin.
Why, if this is all true, why is Bitcoin still trading at 113,000? It should be trading above 120. What is the issue here? And I would wish that the Fox business anchor would say, well, wait a minute here. Why is it so volatile if it's such a guarantee that it's going to go to 1 million? Something's not right.
Forget, I signed into a Fidelity account not too long ago. The first thing that pops up is this little icon. Would you like to create a Fidelity digital asset wallet? And I said yes. I literally clicked yes on it, and all of a sudden you could buy Bitcoin on there. You look at what Chase is doing. You look at what all the major banks are doing, right? I mean, all of a sudden you're no longer trying to do Bitcoin, buy Bitcoin using a ledger and using DeFi. You can literally buy it through spot ETFs for the first time, and every bank is seeing it. I mean, we are on the 1 yard line of cryptocurrency, and we've got another whole field to run, as explosive as it's been. So I do think it hits $1 million eventually. I've never been more bullish on anything in my life. And listen, Charles, I was telling everybody to buy it when it was at 40,000, and here we sit at 115,000. I'm more bullish on it today because of the legislation of this country, and because of how widely adopted it's been. And I can tell you, I talk to the biggest companies, the biggest families in the world, and every single one of them is racing to buy Bitcoin. So, American Bitcoin, I'm
if everyone's jumping in, prices go up, not down. And there's some serious resistance level at 120 for Bitcoin. Just the other day, it was trading at 109. Well, something doesn't make sense there.
I think it's gonna be one of the great companies in the country, in my opinion.
Erica, you've got a new book coming out soon, Under Siege, My Family's Flight to Save Our Nation. By the way, I think the title is an understatement, to be quite frank with you.
I couldn't care less about his fucking book. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. If you pay attention to this stack, this is a great foundation to slow down the aging process. The complete vitamin has the multivitamins that you need for proper enzymatic activity so your cells and your tissues perform properly. Super important to take. It's an easy to digest multivitamin. And then stack it with the probiotics. You can get it in veggie cap or in powder form. These probiotics are very high quality probiotics. And what a probiotic will do is help with your immune system at the gut level, improve your metabolism, help absorb your nutrients, reduce leaky gut syndrome, improve the concentration of your IgA, increase the mucosal lining of the gut, improve the communication between your gut and your liver, and your gut and your brain. You'll be able to sleep better. You'll be able to consolidate memory. You'll be able to detoxify your central nervous system. And you'll be in the 3 to 5 REM cycles for deep sleep and REM sleep. Super important. Good health starts at the gut. So please go to my store and get either the powdered probiotic or the veggie cap and stack it with the complete multivitamin. That's the foundation to slow down the aging process. And then you add stuff to it. The first pillar would be the Max 35 or cleanse to boost up the immune system. C60 to soak up free radicals. The turmeric, the ashwagandha lignans is the third pillar to help with your immune system, your cardiovascular system, and even your brain function by bringing down that inflammation. And Boomer Boost to rev up that metabolism and increase your energy levels. When you do that protocol, you're slowing down the aging process. And you can add stuff to that. you know, the omega-3s and the resveratrols and the clarity factor and all these other different stacks that I have. But based on your affordability and what you want to target, there's lots of ways to customize what's on my store. But if you follow my advice with that foundation and the 4 pillars, and you take that every day, you're going to see huge benefits in regards to slowing down the aging process and boosting up your immune system. So please go to my store, use discount 5, you get $5 off any order. You spend $100 or more, you get a free gift until supplies last. So go to my store, get the complete multivitamin and get the probiotics, take them every day. And don't be Eric Trump. He just seems like he's trying to sell something. Now, I'm, for Trump's, administration, but I don't really care about what Eric Trump has to say. He doesn't even seem that bright. All right, let's listen into... Let's listen to the Hill about the Democrats.
Momentum, acceleration, embrace the pursuit. David Yearman Chevron Collection.
Lindsay, what's in your lens today? I'm kind of on the same page with you with your radar, so let's talk about it. So Democrats are frustrated, and not quietly. The party's donor class is openly questioning whether leadership even has a pulse. After losing the White House and Senate and failing to win back the House, they say the party lacks both direction and a message that sticks. One donor put it bluntly in conversation with The Hill, saying, quote, "We still haven't been able to find our feet, and no one is excited about anything. But I think a lot of people are realizing that if we do nothing, we cede control to Trump, and enough is enough." That's the thesis Democrats can't ignore. Love for the party isn't what's keeping the lights on. It's fear of Donald Trump, now in his second term. That fear is tangible. Donors pointed to a, quote, escalating threat of freedom of speech as a reason they started writing checks again. For some, it was the decision to pull Jimmy Kimmel off the air after his comments about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. For others, it was Trump's immigration crackdown, or even his bizarre statement linking Tylenol almost definitively to autism. As one donor said, quote, "It gets worse every day." But don't mistake fear for loyalty. Another California donor didn't mince words, describing the Democratic Party as, quote, incompetent, arrogant, insular, and tone deaf. The numbers definitely back up that Trump fatigue, though. The Republican National Committee is sitting on $84 million, and the Democrats just $15 million. So they have some work to do. And while some individuals like John Morgan, who's a prominent injury lawyer, tell The Hill they're still cutting checks, he's also drawn sharp boundaries, saying, quote, "I will only give to a Democrat if they are not identified as a democratic socialist." He went on to say, quote, "The idea of handing a pile of cash to people who spend like drunken sailors is a bad idea." But here's the paradox. While the party brand is battered, a Quinnipiac poll shows only 30% of Americans view Democrats favorably right now. That's actually the lowest rating since 2008. Democratic voters themselves are actually fired up. According to a CNN SSRS poll, 72% of Democratic and Democratic-leaning voters are, quote, extremely motivated to vote ahead of these midterms coming up in 2026, compared to 50% of Republicans and Republican-leaning voters. Why? Because Trump is the great equalizer. No matter how fractured or disillusioned Democrats feel about their own party, Trump is such a polarizing figure that he unifies them. Democrats don't need to be in love with their party to show up. They just need to be clear-eyed about who's sitting in the Oval Office. So here's the suggested path forward. Democrats can fight over ideology in 2028, when the Trump era finally ends and a real debate over the party's soul can take center stage. But in 2026, the mission is way simpler. Unity is not optional. Call it a temporary truce. Progressives and centrists don't have to agree on everything, but they do have to agree on one thing: stopping Trump's grip on Congress. If Democrats want to win, they'll need less navel-gazing, more coalition building, and a message that goes beyond "we're not Trump." Because fear might open wallets, but hope is actually what gets people to the polls. I mean, you're right that
pathological dislike of Donald Trump is the thing that unites the Democratic Party. Of course, Trump himself won't be on the ballot in the midterms or again on the presidential election ballot.
If he can, yeah, he can have anything to do with it. He's gonna try.
I mean, I actually don't think Democrats will have much trouble working up, exactly the same level of fury toward J.D. Vance or whoever it is, probably J.D. Vance. But I think
it'll be a little bit less, honestly.
Maybe a little less.
He seems more reasonable in a debate setting.
Having a common enemy will not be their problem. Their problem is, you're right, that there's a substantial progressive faction or further left faction, and then a substantial, it's really two parties. I mean, AOC has said this. It's crazy that she and whoever, the most moderate senator is from the Democratic Party, that they share a party. But they do share a party, and that they need a candidate that picks a direction. And I think,
well, the Republicans don't need that, right? You said Trump just picks, and he might be the anomaly, but he just picks what he thinks works. But he doesn't align with traditional conservative values. We talk about that all the time, and how MAGA calls him on some of those things, and then older Republicans call him on other things, and he's like, I'm not doing either.
The dynamic in the Republican Party is different because it's just Trump is in charge, and then you're right that there's the more NatCon, Steve Bannon, populist faction, there's more like libertarian tech people like Elon Musk, but Trump is just Trump, and you're competing for him to agree with you on issue by issue, to agree with your faction issue by issue. That's how it works on the Republican side. The Democratic side does not have that phenomenon. There's not some leader they're looking to persuade to be more progressive or less progressive. Rather, they are competing to have a leader of the progressive faction, someone like Bernie Sanders or AOC or whoever, win the nomination, or on the more moderate side, someone like Josh Shapiro or I don't know who else, Jared Polis, and then you have people like Gavin Newsom and Kamala Harris who I think are quite progressive, but progressives hate them, and they're not really centrist either, and I don't know. They kind of transcend those categories, but not in ways that actually help them.
And
it's a mess on the Democratic side.
My best advice, as it is a mess, is to bump all that. The midterms are coming up, and there's enough that Trump is doing wrong, since that is the galvanizing thing, to say, hey, let's talk about this. Your Medicaid might go away. Check out the big, beautiful bill. Look at how the immigration is going. Just making people scared in your community that are not criminals. There's so many things they can look to say, okay, maybe Americans don't feel this way. And there are a lot of conservative voices or people who have aligned with Trump in the past, like Joe Rogan, speaking up about some of the things that he's doing around immigration, or Megyn Kelly saying, if we go into Chicago, it doesn't feel like something that as much as I like President Trump, I don't think is a good thing. So there's policies and this criticism. Marjorie Taylor Greene, we talked about yesterday, so many things. Epstein, she just disagrees across the board for the most part lately. So there's so many things that Democrats can just point to say, we'll do something different, but don't just only stop there and say, we're only Trump. They have to first unify, just start with saying, cool, we support Mom Donnie. Why not just say that? And just because it's just like we are supporting somebody.
Well, that's such a disarray when it's because Mom Donnie's just running to be mayor of your city. And similarly with the midterms, the congressional races, you need to, the candidate in Kansas is different than the candidate in California. Fine. But when time comes to have a national...
But time is not here right now.
That's when they're going to be in for some trouble, because I think if the progressives don't get their way again, that's 3 in a row, I think they're going to be really unhappy. They're going to say, we keep losing because you don't let our candidate be the candidate. Now, I don't know that I think Bernie, who had some crossover appeal, actually probably would have performed well in 2016. I'm less clear about that in the more recent elections. In 2016, I do plausibly think he would have won. But they have that narrative, and they could just stay home, and they could tank the whole nomination or the whole candidacy of the.
Yeah, I haven't followed up. Obviously, I'm not embedded within the Democratic Party to know what the real high-level conversations are. I read the New York Times and find out that they're trying to find their own Joe Rogan and nonsense like that. And my best advice as somebody who thinks that, there is a big L that happened in 2024 and it's time to move forward, is to just unify right now. Because obviously what they're yelling and screaming with their silence is that they need more time to organize and come up with what the next iteration of this party looks like. Because I don't know that the centrist Democrat is really going to work anymore. Somebody who's trying to just be nice to everybody, or going up there campaigning, saying something totally different than how they campaign locally or govern locally. So that's also going to be a problem. But while they hash that out amongst themselves and come up with all their crazy solutions to spend millions of dollars, just support the candidates that are locally, just talk about all the things that Trump's doing wrong, and also just lay out a couple policies that maybe the party can agree on, because there are enough things like, okay, we want to make sure people have medical coverage, right? Like the extension of affordable, I mean, we're going to talk about today whether it happens, whether the government shuts down. So I think there's very simple ways to communicate with your base without saying, okay, the whole party's direction looks like this for 2028.
Next up, the superintendent of the Bloomberg Public School.
On Bloomberg, there is a discussion in the White House. Dr. Oz is talking right now. Trump is saying that Pfizer agreed to offer medications at major discounts. So let's listen in on that.
We get this live from Dr. Mehmet Oz, who of course leads the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, live at the White House, flanked by President Trump and Secretary RFK Jr. If you're with us on YouTube, you can get a sense of the room here. Albert Bourla, as you've heard, is also with them, the CEO of Pfizer, who presumably will speak next. And we're going to go back to the room if they do take some questions here. With our eyes on shares of Pfizer and headlines that we brought you earlier today on Bloomberg, we turn to David Gura, who joins us live from World Headquarters in New York at the top of the Tuesday edition here of Balance of Power. David, it's great to have you here. This is something that the president's talked a lot about, and I just want to be deliberate in what we just heard, because he suggested that drug prices could be down by as much as 1,000%, and I'm not sure how the math adds up to all of this, but the fact is the Medicaid insurance program will get most favored nation pricing on some Pfizer medicines. What else do we know?
Yeah, the effort here is to get Pfizer to reduce the cost of drugs overall, and that's what we heard from Mehmet Oz and from RFK Jr., as well as certainly from the president. As you rightly point out, Joe, this is something that President Trump has talked an awful lot about, both on the campaign trail and since he's been in the Oval Office. And this all stems back to a letter that the president sent back in July of this year to not just Pfizer, but many major drug makers, insisting that they come to the negotiating table and reduce some of these costs. I think what will be interesting to hear from Mr. Bourla, who keeps being invoked by these members of the Trump administration, is what this means for the way that Pfizer approaches research going forward. If you think back, Joe, on sort of the arguments that drug makers have made, including Pfizer, against lowering prices, it's that it does two things. First of all, it kind of creates or provides for the innovation that we've seen in the U.S. pharmaceutical sector. They need this money. These drug prices result in companies spending more on research and development of these drugs. The other is, if it were to disappear, companies like Pfizer have less incentive to embark in that kind of research and embark in that kind of development. And so, again, you talk about the questions that we have, the numbers that we don't know about yet. I think that'll be what will be most interesting for me to listen to here, is how Pfizer plans to compensate for what would be, it sounds like a pretty seismic change here in the way that drugs are priced by this company and others.
Yeah, that's for sure. With the headline that the company is going to announce a $70 billion investment in R&D, Mr. Bourla will have quite the needle to thread here, because when you look at the stock today here, David Gura, I know you're not a stock analyst, but Pfizer's up over 3% as it announces across the board reductions in drug prices and a massive investment in R&D. And I'm not sure how you can have all three.
No, it's a very good point. And the way that I think about this is by having this Oval Office entree standing there with these members of the administration. I think there are many investors who are probably looking at that and feeling as though Pfizer has dodged a bullet. Might not be the right term here, but it's certainly ingratiated itself in this administration in a way that might protect it going forward here. I mean, the backdrop to all of this, of course, is the administration's approach to tariffs on pharmaceuticals as well. So it's just only a few days ago that the president floated these 100% tariffs on pharmaceuticals, levies of that extent on branded and patented drugs, unless these companies build more factories here in the United States. And my understanding of that is that most of these drug makers are in fact doing that. Perhaps they won't be hit as hard here, but I think that it's an effort here on this drug maker's part to escape the strong heat and scrutiny of this administration. Perhaps that's what investors are looking at here as a positive sign.
Yeah, and we should note as well, by the way, Pfizer is having a decent day here. But many had left the stock for dead on Wall Street because of this administration's approach to vaccines. And I'll note that it was in December of 2021, that stock topped out at almost $60. It is now worth less than half that, as we spend time with David Gura here on Bloomberg. I don't know, David, if they're going to go to questions or not. Albert Bourla will have some words here, I guess, to make things official, but it is amazing when you step back from this and think about the Oval Office event with Tim Cook, when he presented Donald Trump with the gold trophy, when he's had Jensen Huang come by the office, or Sam Altman. There is a sort of Trump effect that seems to take place to their stocks regardless of what they're announcing.
I think that's exactly right, and you bring up a handful of those executives, but I'm still thinking back on the state visit the president made to the United Kingdom a couple of weeks ago, and how maybe in the past a president of the United States would be accompanied by artists and writers and sports figures and the like. He was really surrounded by this very same group of executives, tech executives, business executives, who, again, he seems to have brokered these relationships with, kind of mutualist relationships with, and he brought them with him on the road as well. But yeah, you bring up Tim Cook, and it was a very similar tableau when he visited the Oval Office most recently, yes, handing over that gift to the president. But I think giving those investors and Apple a reason to take a sigh of relief as well.
Well, it's an interesting bit of timing here because the president's got a lot to deal with. We're going to talk a bit later on about shutdown politics, David, and you've been through a couple of these here. The president is making this announcement on a day that the government is preparing to turn the lights out. 12:01 a.m. tomorrow is when technically it would happen, and by afternoon, we're going to be seeing some votes in the Senate that I suspect will not make him terribly happy. Then again, there are those who believe Donald Trump favors the idea of a shutdown because it would let Russ Vought, his director of management and budget, run wild and lay off hundreds of thousands, potentially, of federal employees. He actually acknowledged that in the driveway when he was headed to Quantico this morning. David, it's hard to get a bead on exactly where this administration stands because they seem to think they benefit either way.
I was talking with Megan Scully, our colleague who heads up our congressional coverage, just about our shared experience covering these things. And I've lost track of how many shutdowns and potential shutdowns I've covered, but there have been over a half a dozen, I think, in recent years. And there's a way in which these customarily play out. And what you see historically are leaders of both parties trying to wrest hold of that bully pulpit to make their case to the American people. And I think that both sides of the aisle have some difficulty doing that here. And you bring up the kind of ambiguity from President Trump, and I think that's something that really stands out to me. There have been moments when he's tried to accuse the Democrats of owning this shutdown and pushing for this shutdown. There are others when he seems kind of blasé about the fact that it's going to happen here. I just think that what we're seeing on display in the Oval Office here today is strange or different from what we've seen in the past. He's had the opportunity twice today to really dig into this and make his case. The first of which was at that speech at Quantico this morning, and now here in the Oval Office. And I don't hear him making a solid case for avoiding a shutdown. Yes, he's trying to put it on the Democrats' plates here. I could also look at the Democrats and say that I think that there's been a kind of PR deficit on their part as well. But you rightly point out we are ticking down the hours to when this would take effect. And you invoking what is the most unique part of this shutdown, that is
let it shut down. Because when you're shutting it down, you're saving money. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the very high-quality dual-purpose deodorants. It's for males and females. You can get it in peppermint, lavender, and tea tree, or in citrus. These deodorants will help to detoxify your body, and then you use it as a daily deodorant. Detoxifying your body regularly is super important for your endocrine system and your immune system. In addition, this is made from essential oils from the Himalayas. Super high quality, all natural ingredients. No aluminum, no baking soda. It's all natural, super high quality. Detoxify your body and use it as a daily deodorant. So please go to my store and get the very high quality deodorants for males and for females. And it's really important that you get the lozenges and the drops, especially for this fall and winter season. You can get elderberry zinc. It's 21 in each bag. The lozenges are larger than the drops. Get a few bags for your household. Have some at work, have some at home. The moment you have that throat irritation, take them right away. I also have drops in 100 count. You can get it in blueberry, in honey and lemon, and also in cherry flavor. So go to my store, get a few bags for your household, be prepared for the fall and the winter. Moment you have that throat irritation, take the lozenges and the drops right away. Mitigate the problem. Please go to my store, use discount 5, and you get $5 off any order.
here, and you can kind of look at that on a spectrum. On one end, there was a fear or worry, I think, among many veterans of the military that there was going to be some sort of formal oath being offered by the president, swear oath for allegiance to what he wants to do. That didn't happen, and I think, if anything, we saw the president kind of stealing the limelight from Secretary Hegseth, who was initially going to be the only keynote speaker at this event in Quantico. But it is something to hear a speech like that in another venue would have had applause and pauses, would have had reaction from the audience, and you didn't have it there. But you pick up on the key part of this. If there wasn't a formal oath offered or suggested, there was, on the part of the president and the Secretary of Defense or Secretary of War, you pick your term here, this entreaty to either stay with us or leave. You can leave the room if you can leave the room if you're post if you don't agree with what they're saying here. And I think it'll be interesting to see sort of what effect it has on these leaders going forward and on down the chain, just the way that these two individuals, President Trump and Secretary Hegseth, are talking about the military and the standards of the military, and the way they're going to measure success in the military going forward here. And you bring up that line, which we can laugh at, the fact that Pete Hegseth doesn't want to see overweight generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon. It is a lesson here in the way that we talk and they talk about the people in the Pentagon. And I think that's deliberate. I should mention too that the Secretary mentioned the book that he wrote about the warrior ethos as well. So there was an opportunity to kind of flag that while he was on stage too. But not to draw too fine a point on this is a speech unlike we've seen in front of an audience that we haven't seen before. And yes, people flew from across, they flew from war zones as well. So this was a serious commitment and something unlike we've seen for a very long time, Joe.
I appreciate the way you frame that because it's important. I clearly need to start doing my sit-ups every day.
Me both, brother.
But it was an interesting moment where the president invoked domestic enemies. Our history is filled with military heroes who took on all enemies, foreign and domestic. He said, you know the phrase. That's what the oath says, foreign and domestic. We also have domestic. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Grover Cleveland, and others all used armed forces to keep our domestic order and peace. Looking, of course, to Portland, the most recent point of deployment here for National Guard troops. You wonder what the folks in that room think about that, David. It wasn't National Guard troops he was talking to today.
I think a lot of people don't want to admit to it. But the thing is that these generals, what they do is they are talking heads on news networks. They get a commission, to be a contributor. They work on a board at some sort of company, so they get money from being a board member, especially for defense contractors. So there needs to be a shining of the light of some of their retirement activities. And when you shine a light on those, you start to realize, well, wait a minute. Are they really for the United States, or are they really just for their own paycheck? And it really is obscene, where you have generals that are overweight and they're telling different service members in the different branches of the service to be in shape. I mean, don't you see that there is some sort of issue there? How can you be a general and you're out of shape? And it's even worse. It's even more egregious. It's even more pernicious. How? You look at service members, especially pre-Hegseth days, they were out of shape in the Navy, in the Army. Now, I don't know, maybe the Air Force. I don't know so much about the Air Force. Most likely not in the Marines. But the point here is that there were many people out of shape, especially in the Navy. So standards need to be elevated. But we also need to shine a light on some of this pernicious activity by the generals in their retirement years, where they're not helping the country. They're just helping their pocket. Now, I think there should be some sort of legislation by Congress that states that you either keep your military pension or you forego the military pension for your speaker fees and your board membership on different corporations. You pick either or, you don't get both. So I'm just kind of tired of seeing these generals, even though they were patriotic and they served their country, they always sell the country down the river when they go into retirement. Very few don't. Very few don't. And guess what? You know who sold the country down the river? It was Powell, General Powell, Secretary of State Powell. When he was about ready to retire, he was quoted in saying, now it's time to make the real money. Because he was going to make tons of money in speaker fees. He was going to make tons of money being on boards. That's how they think. That's how they think. And they need to change that ethos, if you want to call it that.
Across the terminal, Charlie was just talking about Pfizer, and I was asking David Gura why the stock is up exactly. They're lowering prices and increasing investment. I'm not sure how that adds up to bigger profits, but here we go. Pfizer just got a 3-year grace period from pharma tariffs from President Trump.
That basically means that
every pharmaceutical company probably wishes they had. And if you're with us on YouTube, you've got this.
That basically means that they'll never have a tariff. Because do you think J.D. Vance is going to do tariffs? Do you think the Democratic Party is going to do tariffs if they get into the executive branch? So what's this 3-year grace period? What? You have to put pressure on. This is another classic example. This is a classic example of Taco. Trump always chickens out. Here it is, right here. Right here. This bullshit.
And an exemption from tariffs. Got a nice reward on Wall Street. Pfizer shares up 4% now, approaching $25. As we told you, though, just a quick reminder, we were close to $60 in the throes.
And you got to remember, Pfizer was the one that was hiding the plasmids in the inoculation. You know that? You know, causing all that damage during the 2020 crisis. And then they get rewarded with no tariffs for the next 3 years. So they kick the can down the road and they know that they're not going to have any tariffs because there won't be another president that's willing to do it. Stupid, stupid. Trump always chickens out. Same issue with Iran. He chickened out by not killing the Ayatollah. Always chickens out.
Closed. Jack Fitzpatrick specializes in this as our appropriations expert at Bloomberg Government. He covers Congress and is, of course, a dear friend of the program. He'll give us the straight scoop right now, joining us live from Capitol Hill. Jack, I say this to anyone who's been through a lot of these. You've seen this movie before. Is it different this time with Russ Vogt, or are we shutting down tonight?
It looks like we're probably going to shut down. We are looking at 2 likely failed attempts today to avert a shutdown, and one has already happened. Both attempts appeared futile from the outset. First, House Democrats asked for unanimous consent on the House floor to pass their own continuing resolution to avoid a shutdown. They were not recognized. Almost all House Democrats were there yelling, shame, shame. But the House is not in session, so that didn't work. We are expecting a vote, very likely a failed vote in the Senate on the Republican proposal that passed the House but has already failed in the Senate to fund the government through November 21st. So far we're in the predictable part of this, where both sides are making what appear to be futile attempts to pressure the other side to take up their proposal. The question is what happens as the pressure ramps up as we get closer to midnight. And when you mention Russell Vogt, there is an aspect of this that is very unusual, the threat to lay off federal workers, not just to furlough them. And remember that they're now guaranteed back pay if they were furloughed. The layoff threat is not part of the usual shutdown process. It's not really part of the law that governs shutdowns. It's more of a threat by Russell Vogt that he has chosen to make. So there's more pressure than usual, more threat to federal workers, and more of a threat to the economy, because if you look back to the last long government shutdown, 2018 into 19, that was a partial shutdown. This would affect all of the government. Everything that's deemed non-essential, not focused on protecting life and property, would shut down. So it could be a very significant one, and it's definitely unusually pressure-packed.
Well, you put that pretty well, Jack, because that does seem to be the case. And we just got a doozy of a release from the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, predicting 750,000 furloughs during each day of the shutdown. This is something else. OPM, Office of Personnel Management, CBO, estimating that under a lapse in discretionary funding for fiscal year 26, 750,000 employees could be furloughed each day. The total daily cost of their compensation would be roughly $400 million. This is the kind of stuff that Democrats are going to be talking about when they try to blame Republicans, reminding everybody they control both houses in the White House. The Republican argument, Jack, is we're just asking you to continue a Biden budget that you already voted for. The blame game seems to be different this time as well. Do they both lose?
Usually both sides lose. It's a question of how much both sides lose. And right now, each side thinks the other side stands to lose more. And it is important to keep in mind that straightforward continuing resolution to just avoid a shutdown and not get into healthcare policy, not get into the whole impoundment and rescission fight, that was passed the House. Republicans did manage to get the votes together to pass that. That's the issue that's being filibustered by the Democrats. That's why Republicans think they're winning this argument. Democrats are banking on the threat of increased premiums and the fact that they feel like they can't really negotiate with Russell Vought in the first place. That's what has driven them to this point. So both sides feel that they have a compelling argument. The question is, if it shuts down, how long does the shutdown go, and who starts to change their mind? Maybe who gets polling showing that they're losing the argument. After a couple days of a shutdown, the dynamics inevitably change, but we don't know how they're going to change if a shutdown does occur.
I'm curious, Jack, if you've heard anything from Hakeem Jeffries, or I guess for that matter, Senator Chuck Schumer, following the post that the president put on Truth Social late last evening. It's one that I can't play, or I guess even show you on the air here, or we'd have to pay a fine or something. But it's an AI-generated deepfake version of Chuck Schumer making very offensive remarks about Democrats and their love for undocumented immigrants. It also includes the image of House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Both were in the driveway yesterday. They're standing there at the stakeout position in front of the West Wing, mocked up in what is clearly offensive faux Mexican garb, complete with the mustache and the sombrero. I know that Hakeem Jeffries did reply on social media. He wrote, "Bigotry will get you nowhere. Cancel the cuts." Are they saying anything to reporters in person?
Not a ton. I believe he brought it up this morning. I saw his social media reply. Mostly the Democrats have been quite disciplined on their message that they are focused on healthcare. This is a fight over healthcare. Yes, Hakeem Jeffries has responded to that social media post from President Trump. It does remind you that the Democrats know President Trump has a tendency to shoot from the hip and say things that are not terribly strategic when the pressure's on. Last time there was a government shutdown, he preemptively blamed himself for the shutdown on TV. So that may be part of the Democratic strategy, is that Trump is much less disciplined in his approach. There was a response from Jeffries, but mostly I think you're going to hear Democrats just hammering them, saying that there are going to be increased premiums if we don't take action on the Affordable Care Act subsidies, and they're really trying to use this as a spotlight on healthcare subsidies.
Jack Fitzpatrick, thank you so much, Jack. The president has just gone to questions at the White House. We want to listen to what he's saying about the shutdown right now. This is live on Bloomberg.
It sells for $10 in other countries and $137 in the U.S. And that's coming down now to probably $15 or $18. They'll go up to 18. I think that's pretty much right, Albert. It's not you, but they'll go up to 18, and we'll come down from 135 or whatever down to 18. I mean, that's a massive number. Remember, I was the one that held a news conference because I lowered drug prices by 1/4 of 1%. I think it was 1/8 of 1%, but it was the only one in 28 years that brought drug prices down for the year. But it was a very small number. Now we're talking about, you're going to see one over 1,000%. And look at these numbers. So, and this has a big impact, even on the discussion that we'll have with Chuck Schumer, who was here yesterday, along with a very nice gentleman who I didn't really know. You know what I'm talking about. The two of them came and we had a good discussion, and we're going to see what happens. We're going to see what happens, but this has a huge impact on that because these numbers are going to bring Medicaid. We talk about Obamacare. Obamacare is a failure. Obamacare is not good. It's not. It's there, but relative to other healthcare programs, it's in the lower 20%. It's not good. And I asked the Democrat representatives, what do you think about coming up with a better healthcare? This actually allows you to do that because the cost of prescription medicine is a big, I guess, a very big, more than 50% the cost of what we're talking about. So we might be able to do something like that. This is one of the biggest news conference from a medical standpoint that I think has ever been had by any administration. Yeah, please.
I'm curious, where are the other companies other than Pfizer? Are you expecting them to come up later?
And I was honored to have Albert be the first. He's done a fantastic job with, as you know, the COVID. He did a fantastic job with a lot of things. He's a leader, and Pfizer is right at the top. You know, it's there. Eli Lilly has been fantastic also, your friend. Okay. And they're all coming in over the next week. We're making deals with all of them. And I said, if we don't make a deal, then we're going to tariff them an extra 5, 6, 7, 8%, whatever the difference is, and we'll take it that way. So we took away the advantage by the fact that we have tariffs. We took away the advantage that they would have of just saying no, and we couldn't do anything about it. If they do that, what we do is we put a tariff on them of an equivalent amount, and we take it that way. And nobody wants to play that game. So they're going to be, they're all going to be good. We didn't have to mention that to Albert. Or maybe I whispered it to him very slightly. You know? We had to give ourselves a little bit of an advantage. But the tariffs played a big role because they know that's what's going to happen.
You mentioned the tariff, the exemption of the 232s, but can you share a timeline for when we can expect the results of that 232 investigation?
Letting Howard answer that question, please.
Sure. So while we're negotiating these companies, we're going to let them play out and finish these negotiations because they are the most important thing to the American people. So we are standing by, helping and working with them, but the driver of the 232 outcomes is our HHS team because, I mean, look what they've accomplished today. So we are on their side helping them, but that is the bottom line going to Trump.
And you have to understand, Albert's spending $70 billion that he wouldn't be spending because of the tariffs, let's say, and other reasons. I think he liked the winter of November 5th, in all fairness, but because of the tariffs. And that wouldn't happen. He's not going to pay any tariffs because when he moves here, there are no tariffs. So he won't be paying tariffs. That's the beauty of it. If you move here, there are no tariffs. And we have over $17 trillion, Albert. Do you believe these numbers? So Biden had less than $1 trillion for 4 years. We have over 17 trillion for essentially 8 months. Pretty amazing.
When will prices come down, Mr. President? When can it?
Drug prices? Well, we started immediately.
President, can you speak to what impact you think this reduction in drug prices will have on midterms coming up?
I think it's going to have huge. I said, if we can pull this off before midterms, I've wanted to do it from the beginning, from my first day and first term. And we were doing so well. We had the greatest economy we've ever had. Everything was good. And then we're ready to do this, which is complex and big. It's big. It's a big change. But what happened is COVID came, and we focused on COVID. We focused on COVID very hard with Albert, with the other companies, with everybody. Regeneron was a great thing. You know, we did a lot of therapeutics that were fantastic. And so we focused on that. And I said, if I pull this off again, the first thing I'm going to do, and you know, we've been working on this for 8 months. This is a very big deal. This is a big shock to the system. But it's not as much as I said. They're going to go up. The world is going to go up a little bit. We're going to come down a lot. But now it's fair. we're gonna be paying the same thing, yeah.
President Trump, in your first term, when you cut the price of insulin, Biden later came in and tried to steal credit for that. Do you worry that the Democrats are going to try to steal credit for these historic cuts?
I really appreciate your question, because I cut the price of insulin down to $35. And the problem is with many of these things, in this case, it's going to be pretty quick, but oftentimes you'll do something medically because of the process, and it won't be seen for 2 or 3 years. That happened also with, I could say 4 different things, but just if you talk about insulin, so it was 200, 300, 500, and you couldn't get it, and I got it down to 35. And I said, I hope I win the next election, because otherwise whoever wins is going to take credit for it. Well, what happened is we did win the election. We did great. But unfortunately, it didn't work out that way from a practical standpoint. And Biden, when I saw him get up and take credit for the $35 and even less insulin, that was 1,000% lower than what it was just previous. Boy, I tell you, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. So I did the best I could to let him know we did it, because we want to be given credit. But we are the ones that got insulin down to that number. And you're right, they tried to take credit for it. They had nothing to do. In fact, they didn't even know what happened. All of a sudden, the insulin price kicked in at $35. And they asked Biden about it. He had no idea what the hell they were talking about. But after they explained, and they didn't really explain to him because he was not capable really of understanding. But when they went out and talked about it, they acted like it was a great feat, but it had nothing to do with them. And it continues, and we'll get it down even further. But insulin was, people weren't taking it, I would imagine. They couldn't get it. God bless you, Bobby. I hope I didn't catch COVID just there. Don't you have Paxlovid? He's got Paxlovid. Give me a Paxlovid immediately.
While Nancy Pelosi is ignoring what you're doing for the American people, she's going after your administration for cutting taxpayer-funded healthcare for illegal aliens. Last night, Nancy Pelosi, she went on NBC last night, dropped a bunch of that bombs, told Republicans to go at themselves. Has she lost her mind?
We have done an unbelievable job medically. Just this, if you did nothing else, we've done a lot like the insulin. But just this, nobody can ever catch this. This is the biggest price reduction times, maybe 10 times, 15 times, that has ever been given before. And this is going to have a huge impact. You know, as I said, Obamacare is not a good thing. It's been bad. And I'd like to make it better. I told them, I spoke to a lot of people, a lot of Democrats recently. I said, why don't we change it? We can make Obamacare much better. We could come up with a new system that would be much better, less expensive for the people and better. This is maybe the biggest breakthrough, because, you know, when you're talking about the prescription drugs, that's a big part of it. So we're going to look, this is prescription, but we're going to be looking at that. We could come up and through this whole thing, you know, because I don't know, we'll probably have a shutdown, because one of the things they want to do is they want to give incredible Medicare, the Cadillac Medicare, to illegal immigrants. And what that does is it keeps them coming into our country, and like they do in California. And no country can afford that, no country. And we have the border stopped up, we have it closed, we have nobody for 4 months, zero people came in. That wasn't me, that's me, by the authorities who happen to be liberally oriented. But just think of that. We have people offering health care to people all over the world that they can't afford to pay, and that's the Democrats. And what that does is it brings people into the country because they want to come in for the health care. But no country can afford it, and they can't afford it. So we cannot allow them to charge tremendous amounts of money for health care for people that aren't even citizens. And in many cases, they come in from prisons, jails, and mental institutions, and we can't let that happen. So we have a big fight over that. We have a fight over open borders. They still want open borders. We're having a fight over men and women's sports, if you believe it. You would have thought they would have learned. That's not a good issue. And we have a fight in transgenders, you know, transgender for everybody. And that, when you talk medically, that's a lot of money too. That's a lot. Those operations are bad. So those things are also being discussed right now. I mean, can you imagine we're actually talking about open borders? So we now have a great border. And we have a great country. Our country was dead 1 year ago. Now we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. Big difference. Yeah.
What does that say about the state of the Democrat Party when they have a 33% favorability rating on average in recent months, and they're willing to shut down the government over healthcare?
They're not shutting it down. We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested. So the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that. But they want to have illegal aliens come into our country and get massive health care at the cost to everybody else, and we don't have it. And that's I would say, the number one reason that they want to strike is to get illegal immigrants health care. And, Gavin Newsom wants that too in California, and it's destroying California. We can't have that. We're not going to let it happen.
Do you have a plan for dealing with drug companies that are responding to MFN only by raising prices overseas as opposed to lowering prices?
No, they're responding. I understand that question very well, but they're responding by lowering prices. They're helped by lowering prices. There's a price at which they can't sell, and they're helped by lowering prices. In the case of Albert and in the case of Eli Lilly, the fact is our prices are coming down massively. You see, that's just a few of the basics, but they're coming down much more than that with many drugs, and over 1,000%. Think of that, over 1,000% reduction, and we'll show you that next week because we have some of them on the board next week where you have over 1,000% price reduction. Now, what's going to happen is you're going to have the market will kick in. This way, the market kicks in. The other way was just basically it was just a form of control. You were stifling the market. Yeah.
Brian, this is a shutdown inevitable. And how would you describe the negotiations with Democrats yesterday? Are more meetings scheduled?
So nothing is inevitable, but I would say it's probably likely because they want to give healthcare to illegal immigrants, which will destroy healthcare for everybody else in our country. And I didn't see them bend even a little bit when I said we can't do that. Okay?
Question about Dr. Osmond. If there is no deal reached on the Obamacare subsidies with the Democrats, is there anything that CMS can do to lower those, to mitigate the increases of those Obamacare subsidies?
Not really, but we have time. We have time till the end of the year to make the changes. I know the president is evaluating, but we should have a clean, continuing resolution, get past this budget process as it has happened so many times, and allow the president and leadership some freedom to be able to put some good ideas in front of the legislative bodies.
Undocumented immigrants
We have time for that.
are eligible for the healthcare subsidies that Democrats are demanding. So can you clarify, what are you talking about when you say Democrats want to protect their healthcare?
So when an illegal person comes in, a person who came into our country illegally, therefore breaking the law. And look, we all have big hearts. I have a bigger heart than you do. They're all breaking the law, and they're coming into our country. And we just, as a country, cannot afford to take care of millions of people who have broken the law coming in. We want them to come into our country, but we want them to come in legally. Now we have a strong border, very strong border, thanks to Christie and Tom Holman and the whole group. They've done an amazing job at the border. I mean, we had a border that was reckless. We had a border that was a disaster. They were coming in by the millions. I say 25 million people. You're saying less, but I say 25 million people came in illegally. And no system can take care of the health care of all of those people that came in. Now, a lot of them have gone out. We have over 11,000 murderers. We got many of them out. Many of those people have been taken out of the country, brought back to where they came from. In some cases, put in prison because they're so dangerous. We don't want to take them out. We have to watch them. We don't want them coming back. But if you look at what's happened in Washington, D.C. right now, it is such a place. I just drove through it, and it's clean and nice and beautiful. People are walking around, and they're not afraid of being mugged. We haven't had murders We haven't had anything happen in a long time. It took us 12 days to make it very good. It took us 20 days to make it beautiful. And now we're going to Memphis. But I think we should always keep a presence here, because if we don't keep a presence, it's going to come back never like it was, because we got rid of 1,700 career criminals. You know what that is? One career criminal can give you a lousy reputation for danger, because they commit many crimes a day in some cases. But Washington, D.C. is an unbelievable example of what can happen. And now we're going, as you know, to Memphis, which was very similar to Washington, very dangerous. And we're there, and we're working along very well with the governor, the mayor. A lot of these Democrat mayors, you know, what they don't want to have us do well, because if we do well, it makes them look bad, and they shouldn't feel that way. If I were a Democrat and I was a governor or mayor, I'd be calling Trump and say, get your troops over here, just help. Because the mayor of Washington is getting a lot of credit for what we did. You know, a lot of credit. But the beauty is, isn't it nice, seriously, you walk down the street, you're not going to be mugged. You're not going to be hit. We had a meeting about 3-4 months ago, and I was saying to the media, how many of you people have been threatened or mugged or accosted during your walk to the White House? And they said, we don't walk to the White House anymore. But the answer was, remember, Brian, almost everybody's, look at this guy. They even attacked this big, strong guy, right? Didn't you get attacked? Did you? But, yeah, just take a look at the other guy, right? What happened to the other guy? I don't know. Those other guys are pretty tough. They're tough with a gun in their hand, right? And yeah, you were hit pretty hard. But almost everybody was. And now, nobody. Anybody been accosted in the last 3 weeks? If I would have said that 6 months ago, half the heads would have been raised out. No, we have a very safe city now. The country's going to be safe. We're doing one at a time, and we'll be going to Chicago. I told you this, sir. Union Pacific, head of the railroad. He knows this country very well. Started off as a very low-rung employee of the Union Pacific. He's now chairman. He came to me and he said, sir, save Chicago. It's a great city. It's going down fast. They had 11 people killed over the last couple of weeks. 11 people killed, 48 shot. That's not a city. That's a war zone. There's no city in the world like that. And then we have to listen to this Pritzker get up. I know him well. They threw him out of his business, and the family threw him out of the business because he's a loser. But we have to listen to Pritzker get up. He should call me and say, get the troops in. You ever hear that? 11 people over a week and a half killed. And I think it's 48, when you add it up, 48 people shot. And then I have to listen to a governor say how nice it is. It's a wonderful experience. You know? What is a wonderful experience is D.C. People are eating in the restaurants. They just opened 2 new restaurants, which hasn't worked in years. And we had it pretty good 4 years ago. We were just getting ready to do this, but we did it right. And, you know, we have a big victory in the Supreme Court. It's called merit. And so that includes the military. Our soldiers, did you see what they look like? These guys, they look like serious soldiers. They weren't playing games, and they went in there and they did a fantastic job. And Washington, D.C. is now a beautiful, safe city. The restaurants are thriving. The people are walking down the street holding their husband or their boyfriend's hand, and they're not worried about being raped or mugged or shot at. And it's been an amazing thing. And we'll do that in every city. We'll do them sort of one at a time. We'll do a couple at a time. And we have a tremendous force because, as you know, in recruitment numbers, when we put out 2 years ago, when Biden would put out recruitment, nobody would join. Nobody wanted to be in the military. Nobody wanted to be police. It was just announced this morning. You probably saw my speech over with the military, with the generals, admirals. Record numbers of people signing up for the Navy, the Army, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force. I love Space Force. That was my baby. But we have record numbers of people signing up, and that includes police department, fire department. So, you know, it's been an amazing thing. Well, we're going to have another meeting next week on this. We have another great company coming in, similar kind of numbers. But we're going to show you some 1,000% drops in prices. There's never been anything like this in the history of medicine. And it's an honor. And Albert, I want to thank you, and I want to thank everybody behind me, because you are a great team. We have a great team. Everybody says you have a great cabinet. It's a great team. So thank you, Bobby. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
There you have it. President Trump and company in the Oval Office, and now the press being ushered out by the press wranglers. It's great to have you with us here on Balance of Power. That fit neatly into our first hour, although it started very late. President Trump standing side by side with RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, and Albert Bourla, the head of Pfizer, along with some others from the company there, to roll out this favored nation pricing status, if you will, when it comes to drugs. The president talking about across-the-board
Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. Boomer Boost will focus on your heart and your vascular system, your brain function, your musculature, your energy levels. Rev up your metabolism. You'll notice the difference within 72 hours. You're going to have a steady burn of energy. You're going to have more vitality. You're going to move around more. Over time, what you're going to notice is that you're going to get rid of that brain fog. You're going to be able to sleep better. You'll have better neuroplasticity. Your memory and your cognitive function will improve. And there is going to be compound benefits day after day, month over month, where you're seeing your body improve its immune system, its endocrine system, and you're slowing down the aging process. This is powerful stuff. Take it every day. It's the fourth pillar of my core protocol. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the Boomer Boost. I also have C60. C60 you can get in extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, or MCT coconut oil. You can get it in a 2-ounce, a 4-ounce, or an 8-ounce configuration. Higher ounce configuration is cheaper per ounce. Take a teaspoon a day, every day, preferably on an empty stomach for best absorption. It's going to soak up free radicals 1,000 times more than 1 molecule of vitamin C. Make sure you take a teaspoon a day. And it's going to soak up those free radicals, improve the health of your mitochondria. You're going to have more energy. Your immune system, your endocrine system, your vascular system, and your brain function will improve. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com, and get the C60. Super important to soak up those free radicals, to slow down the aging process, and to boost up that immune system. And guess what? When you're bringing down those free radicals at the cellular level, you're reducing stress on the cell and in your tissues. It's really important to take even in the fall and the winter. Trust me, take a teaspoon a day, especially in the fall and the winter. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. Be prepared for this fall and winter season. It's going to be problematic, but if you follow what I just mentioned in this video, you will weather the storm. Please go to my store, the-studio-reykjavik.com. That's the end of my broadcast. Thank you for listening. Have a nice day.